Chapter 227. When the sky-reaching ape stepped into the territory of Mount Liang. Boom! An earth-shattering blast of air swept out in all directions. A long rainbow shot out from the peak of Mount Liang, as if it was piercing through the heavens and earth, and headed straight for the sky-reaching ape. The long rainbow came quickly. However, the sky-reaching ape wasn't slow at all. Its big hand covered in black hair was like a huge millstone, and it slapped towards the long rainbow. The two collided. A terrifying gust of wind spread out in all directions. The sky-reaching ape let out an angry roar. A small hole appeared in its palm, and blood dripped from the wound. As for the cloud-piercing arrow, it was sent flying as if it had suffered a heavy blow. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth rolled back, and the cloud-piercing arrow was sent flying back. Qin Shujian stepped into the air from the peak of Mount Liang. He reached out and put away the long arrow. Then, he walked towards the border between Mount Liang and the endless mountain range. It only took a few breaths of time. Qin Shujian had already appeared in front of the sky-reaching ape. At this moment, a physical invulnerability realm monster pounced towards him. He didn't move at all. Only the long saber on his back was slightly unsheathed. A hidden saber aura burst out, and it directly killed the physical invulnerability realm monster. In an instant, its head was separated from its body. Sect Master. Seeing Qin Shujian's appearance, the Yuan sect disciples at the side were excited. Qin Shujian stood with his hands behind his back. He looked straight at the sky-reaching ape and said calmly, "Don't worry about the enemy. Kill all the monsters that trespass." Yes. After Qin Shujian's appearance, all the Yuan sect disciples were energized. The panic caused by the sky-reaching ape had completely disappeared. As for the other players, at this moment, they also calmed down. Although they wouldn't die, it was too painful to lose a level each time they died. The mountain-like body of the sky-reaching ape gave people a strong visual impact. They weren't even on the same level as the sky-reaching ape. According to the players' estimation, apart from the Mount Liang Stockade Master, there was probably no one in Yuan sect who was a match for this monster. It wasn't that no player had tried to use the insight technique to see through the sky-reaching ape's attributes. In the end, the information obtained was, it was a complete blank. From this, it could be seen. This was the terrifying aspect of this demonic beast. Tao Artifact. The moment the mountain blood left its scabbard, the heaven-piercing ape slowly opened its mouth. In his eyes, Qin Shujian was as small as an ant. It also made him feel a great threat. It was precisely because of this. After being injured by the cloud-piercing arrow, the sky-piercing ape did not immediately attack in rage. Instead, it stayed where it was. The Origin sect has nothing to do with the heaven-reaching ape clan. Why did you drive the demon beasts to invade the true dominion of Mount Liang? Qin Shujian's voice wasn't loud, but it was as loud as a sky-piercing ape, covering all the noise in the hall. The sky-reaching apes were not weak. Even though he was currently in the true dominion and his cultivation level had been suppressed to the 10th level true martial realm, he was still a true dominion expert. But no one really treated the other as a martial artist in the 10th level of martial realm. He would definitely die a horrible death. Most importantly, the heaven-piercing ape was the second demon beast that could speak human language after meeting the Ox Demon Lord. He could speak human language. Qin Shujian didn't know if it had anything to do with strength. But after thinking about it, he felt that it was unlikely. After all, in terms of strength, there were many demon beasts in the endless mountain range that could crush Nyodali. These demon beasts had never spoken human language before. Also, their intelligence was generally low. At most, they were similar to the slightly intelligent demon beasts in the demon vein. Demon beasts like the heaven-reaching ape, which had high intelligence and strong individual strength, were very difficult to deal with. On the other side, the heaven-reaching ape said in a muffled voice, "The three-headed green feather kite of my clan died in the true dominion of Mount Liang. You should give me an explanation." While it was talking, Qin Shujian had already focused his attention on the cultivation technique. 280,000 points of vitality were gone. Instead, the two cultivation techniques that had been cultivated to the 5th level of the true martial technique were directly deduced to the perfected stage. Boom! The void trembled. 2 universal heavenly locks were derived and directly locked Qin Shujian's legs. At that moment, the vital essence in his dantian was vibrating wildly. The vital essence was suppressed to the extreme, and an open flame could be seen burning from the center. In an instant, the vital essence in his dantian was completely boiling. The black silk net suddenly appeared and firmly sealed the entire dantian. Then, under the burning of the open flame, the black silk net also began to gradually collapse. Boom, boom. Another 2 universal heavenly locks that had originally existed condensed. The black silk net shone brightly and forcibly suppressed the open flame. Qin Shujian also moved his mind slightly and cooperated with the shackles to suppress the surging power. Then, looking at the heaven-reaching ape's originally ferocious face, which was gradually replaced by shock, he said calmly, "The 3-headed green feather kite trespassed into the true dominion of Mount Liang and killed my sect's disciples. What's wrong with me killing it personally?" Calm words. However, they were accompanied by a vast aura that spread. The 4 universal heavenly locks trembled slightly. Thousands of Dao runes seemed to appear on the silver chains. At this moment, all the demon beasts stopped in their tracks. The fear that was originally caused by the heaven-reaching ape spontaneously arose under the impact of this aura. There was a wolf in front. There was a tiger behind. Advancing or retreating could lead to death. Under the threat of death, these demon beasts actually directly prostrated themselves. Their bodies trembled slightly, and they did not dare to make any more movements. As for the others, including the players, their faces were filled with shock at this moment. Universal heavenly locks. It pierced through the universal void. 4 universal heavenly locks. The heaven-reaching ape was really shocked at this moment, according to his original plan. As for driving the demon beasts to severely injure Yuanzong, then showing himself to intimidate Yuanzong and finally mentioning the 3-headed green feather kite. As for Yuanzong having a Dao artifact, to be honest, the heaven-reaching ape did not know at first. He only knew that there was a new protectorate lord in the true dominion of Mount Liang who had established a sect. If Yuanzong was strong enough, then the matter of the 3-headed green feather kite would be over as long as he gave the appropriate compensation. If Yuanzong was weak, if that was the case, he wouldn't mind personally wiping out the entire Yuan sect. When he saw the Dao artifact, the heaven-reaching ape dismissed the idea of destroying Yuanzong. After all, although he was strong, he was still not strong enough to fight against the Dao artifact. However, the heaven-reaching ape still had no intention of retreating. However, when he saw Qin Shujian erupt with 4 universal heavenly locks, the heaven-reaching ape finally had the thought of retreating. A Dao artifact was scary. However, a Dao artifact coupled with an expert who had condensed 4 universal heavenly locks was definitely fatal. Not to mention him, even if the heaven-reaching ape, who was at the divine martial realm or above, was here, he might not be able to fight against the other party, because 4 universal heavenly locks could easily break the shackles of the true dominion and become the protectorate lord of the spirit dominion. Such a person, every one of them was an unparalleled expert, invincible among the same level. These words were most appropriate for Qin Shujian at the moment. The heaven-reaching ape knew very well, invincible among the same level. No matter what level an expert belonged to, as long as they entered the true dominion, they would only be defeated in front of an expert who had condensed 4 universal heavenly locks. This was an existence who could break the shackles of the true dominion. Unbelievably strong. He was also unreasonably strong. Therefore, after hearing Qin Shujian's words, the heaven-reaching ape suddenly fell silent. After a while, he then said slowly, "The 3-headed green feather kite trespassed into the true dominion of Mount Liang and wantonly massacred. It was only natural that it was killed. Our tribe has already understood this matter." While he was speaking, the heaven-reaching ape's broad palm groped the back of his head before he pulled it out forcefully. A thick, light golden thread landed in his palm and floated towards Qin Shujian. "Our tribe has always respected experts. This is my intrinsic hair. The person who holds this item is a friend of our tribe. In the future, if you meet other heaven-reaching apes, you can show this item and be treated with respect. If the future Protectorate Lord of the Spirit Dominion is interested, you can also head to the Thousand Demon City. That is the territory of the heaven-reaching ape tribe. Our tribe is very willing to befriend an expert like you. After he finished speaking, the heaven-reaching ape turned his mountain-like body and walked towards the endless mountain range. Only the golden hairs floated down. Looking at the golden hairs that were like tiny hairs in the heaven-reaching ape's hand, but now they were like pillars more than 10 feet long. Qin Shujian directly used his vital essence to hold them up and put them into his storage ring. As for the heaven-reaching ape's departure, he did not stop it. After all, the heaven-reaching ape tribe was extremely strong. It was easy to leave one heaven-reaching ape behind, but it was still too reckless to face the entire heaven-reaching ape tribe. As he pressed down with his vital essence, the 4 universal heavenly locks gradually disappeared. The expected battle did not unfold. No one had expected that the seemingly powerful and ruthless heaven-reaching ape would actually flee without a fight. At the same time, this also showed that Qin Shujian's strength was far more terrifying than they had imagined. Did you not see? The mountain-like heaven-reaching ape. When they saw each other, they would give something to each other as a sign of weakness and then turn around and retreat. If they did not have absolute strength, how could such a powerful demonic beast leave so easily? As for the other crawling demon beasts, when the heaven-reaching ape left and the universal heavenly locks disappeared, they finally got up from the ground. He looked at Qin Shujian, who was standing there. These demon beasts with low intelligence instinctively wanted to retreat towards the endless mountain range. However, the demon beasts wanted to retreat, but it did not mean that the people of Yuan sect were willing to let them go. Buzz. The Tao artifact was unsheathed and the blade qi swept out. 5 physical invulnerability realm demon beasts could not even resist and were directly cut in half at the waist. Any demon beast that steps into Liang Mountain's territory, kill them all. Leave no one alive. The players were already prepared to attack. When the mountain blood was unsheathed, they were stunned for a moment. Then they heard Qin Shujian's indifferent words. Instantly, they all looked at the retreating demon beasts with shining eyes and then chased after them. For the players, the sect mission issued by the system had not ended yet. That meant every living demonic beast was a walking EXP and contribution points. So, there was no reason for them to let them go. Chapter 228. The demon beasts fled. This didn't mean that they wouldn't fight back. Soon, another great battle broke out. However, compared to before, the demon beast resistance was obviously much weaker now. Qin Shujian stood at the border of Liang Mountain. Behind him, the 1,000 mountain blood was suddenly unsheathed. The power of a Tao artifact. Even without activating it, it could still intimidate everything. He held the saber hilt with one hand, and a Tao seal appeared on the saber. Then, he used the tip of the saber as a brush and carved a huge talisman that looked like a combination in the air. Boom, boom. The spirit chi of heaven and earth swarmed over. The huge talisman seemed to come alive as it danced in the air. Endless sharp coldness was revealed between the strokes. An aura as terrifying as the heavenly might spread instantly. Hide! Qin Shujian shouted in a low voice. The talisman was hidden in the void. After doing all this, he looked calm, but in fact, his Dantian's quintessential essence was half empty. One had to know. With his current strength, he could break through the shackles of the true dominion at any time. Not to mention half of his quintessential essence. Just a little bit of quintessential essence. It might be enough to make a physical invulnerability realm cultivator explode. Void seal carving, combination talisman, master blacksmith. When Shun Yuqing saw this, he suddenly felt that it was difficult to breathe. Even Shun Yuhua, who was beside him, was shocked. Based on their experience in the Elixir Tripod sect, how could they not know what level Qin Shujian's technique was at? Although one of them was a high-grade alchemist and the other was a middle-grade blacksmith. But in the Elixir Tripod sect, they were also blacksmiths. Therefore, the technique Qin Shujian used just now, only master blacksmiths were qualified to use it, and only blacksmiths. They didn't need any physical medium to carve the talisman directly using the void as a foundation. He's just a high-grade blacksmith. When he thought of what Qin Shujian had said to him, Shen Yuqing felt that he had been fooled. You're telling me that he's just a high-grade blacksmith? He didn't believe that it was possible for him to break through from a high-grade blacksmith to a blacksmith in just 2 months. Furthermore, that kind of void seal carving seemed to be very casual. It was definitely not at the level of a beginner forging master. This is a top-notch forging master. Immediately, Shen Yuqing's heart was burning. Even if it was the Pill Cauldron sect, only during its most glorious times would there be a top-notch master blacksmith. Later on, it declined. The top master forger no longer existed. Or else, facing the oppression of the celestial sect, the Pill Cauldron sect would not be destroyed so quickly. In the end, or was it because the Pill Cauldron sect no longer had the qualifications to be feared by the celestial sect? Senior brother, can you tell what kind of runes the sect master is inscribing? Shin Yuhua asked in a low voice. Although the two of them were brother and sister, however, she was still used to addressing them as martial brother and sister. Shen Yuqing frowned and said uncertainly, the meaning of the runes seems to be demon slay, but I can't see it clearly either. It was the work of a master forger. Even if the runes were engraved, it was definitely not something an ordinary person could decipher. The reason he could recognize this point was because of his deep foundation. Demon slay. Hearing this, Shen Yuhua was shocked and looked at Qin Shujian with a different expression. At this moment, the people of the Yuan sect had already collected all the loot that they could collect from the battlefield. Among them, the ones who worked the hardest were the players. Other than the experience gained from killing monsters, the thing that people looked forward to the most was to loot the corpses. Although in this game, killing monsters would not be like other games where equipment would be directly dropped from the corpses. However, they could still loot the corpses to obtain valuable items from the monsters. What was the most valuable thing in the Endless Mountain Range? It was definitely the beast core. For the players, it belonged to whoever looted it. The price of a beast core was not cheap. If they were to exchange it with the sect, their strength would increase by a lot. Not long after, the corpses had already been refreshed. When everyone turned around, Qin Shujian glanced into the distance from the corner of his eyes. Soon after, he took a step into the air and directly headed towards the direction of the stone forest. In the distance, 2 men dressed in celestial sect attire were secretly hiding at the side. When they felt Qin Shujian glancing at them, their hearts raced as if they were being stared at by a terrifying existence. Fortunately, Qin Shujian only glanced at them once before he turned around and left. Did he discover us? Shuexiang had a lingering fear. That glance just now almost made him think that he was done for. It's not strange for such an expert to discover us. Zhang Hong's face was extremely solemn, and there was still a hint of fear in his eyes. However, he did not make a move after that. That proves that he has no intention to kill us. Condensing 4 universal heavenly lock. For such an existence to kill them, it would not be any harder than killing a chick. Do you think we should still go to the Yuan sect? Hearing Shuexiang's words, Zhang Hong fell silent. The two of them were originally ordered by the Great Elder of the Celestial Sect to come to the Celestial Sect to ask for the remaining members of the Alchemy Sect and the Lin family. Although it was a reward, however, they still had the intention to suppress them. After all, the Celestial Sect was a large sect in the spirit domain and was one of the top existences in the fallen dust spirit domain. No matter how powerful the Yuan sect was, it was only famous in the True Dominion. If such a sect was brought out, it would not be able to cause any waves in the spirit domain. Shuexiang and Zhang Hong were originally full of confidence about this matter. However, now, the two of them had no confidence at all. Originally, they had encountered the beast tide. When the sky-piercing ape appeared, it was already shocking enough. Such a top-notch demonic beast. It had a great reputation in the spirit domain and even in the entire Great Zhao 13 prefectures. Its strength was also formidable, although they were peak true martial realm cultivators. If a peak true martial realm sky-piercing ape wanted to kill them, it would be a matter of a slap. In the end, when the 4 universal heavenly locks appeared, the sky-piercing ape actually retreated under the deterrence of the Tao artifact. even such a top-notch demonic beast of the same level. It did not dare to confront it. Even though Shuexiang and Zhang Hong had not seen an expert with 4 universal heavenly locks, they could understand how terrifying it was. On the other side, as the demonic beasts in the Liang Mountain area were exterminated, the battle at the chaotic stone forest was also intense. Fortunately, the sky-piercing ape was heading towards the Liang Mountain area. Most of the demonic beasts that were driven away were also heading towards the Liang Mountain area. The number of demonic beasts that actually fled to the chaotic stone forest was much smaller. With the help of the 600 inner energy cultivators from the 2 branch sects and the reinforcements from the other branch sects, facing such a demonic beast that intruded, it was not a complete suppression, but it was not a big problem to deal with interception. When Qin Shujian arrived, the battle here was not over yet. However, he did not waste too much time. He used the great desolate devil-suppressing seal 3 times and killed dozens of demonic beasts that were comparable to the 4th level of the true martial realm. Then, he used the Dao artifact and the saber chi and thunder wreaked havoc. Almost every second, different demonic beasts fell. Very soon, all the demonic beasts that entered the chaotic stone forest were almost completely exterminated by Qin Shujian and the joint forces of the experts from the 2 branch sections. The remaining demonic beasts, when they felt fear, they also retreated towards the endless mountain range. Following the same pattern, Qin Shujian also used the same method as he did in the Liang Mountain area. In the space between the chaotic stone forest and the endless mountain range, he carved a huge seal to conceal it. At this point, the matter of this beast tide could be considered to have completely come to an end. Within the inherited martial hall, Qin Shujian sat in the main seat. On the left and right were many elders, including the elders from the branch sections. Everyone report the losses of this beast tide. Hearing this, the scene was silent for a moment. Then Fu Gang stood up first, clasping his hands and saying, reporting to the sect master, this time my Xin lineage has a total of 17 true martial realm cultivators that have fallen, of which 4 are at the inner energy realm. Earth Vein. Very quickly, everyone reported the losses of this beast tide. After that, they also roughly reported the results of this battle. Qin Shujian's expression did not change much. In this battle, the Yuan sect had lost over 100 true martial realm cultivators, of which 30% were at the inner energy realm. Such a loss. It could not be said to be small, but it was relative. They had killed over 4,000 demon beasts, of which 300 were at the outer energy realm, and over 1,200 were at the inner energy realm. Compared with such a battle result, the losses of the Yuan sect were relatively light. If it were other sections, under the attack of such a beast tide, they would either close the mountain gate and not come out, or they would be easily trampled by the beast tide. After everyone finished reporting, Qin Shujian said, there are many beast cores in this beast tide. You can let the disciples who have seized beast cores go to the alchemy hall to exchange for elixirs for cultivation. This time our sect has suffered a lot, and the reason is because we are not strong enough. Sect Master is right. The rest of the elders also responded in unison, except for one person, or rather, it was Niu. Now he felt like he was sitting on pins and needles. His expression was a little stiff and awkward. As the head of the demon lineage and also an elder of the Yuan sect, Niu Dali's life was no different from before. Basically, he changed his identity and continued to sleep. After receiving Qin Shujian's message, he came to participate in the Yuan sect elders meeting. In the end, when the others opened their mouths, they talked about how many demon beasts they had killed. This made Niu Dali feel a chill on his neck. He was afraid that these people would get excited and remember that there was still a Niu demon here, and directly catch him and kill him. Apart from that, he did not have any other feelings. Although they were both demon beasts, Niu Dali had always stayed in the lion-tiger plain and was not familiar with the demon beasts in the endless mountain range. He also looked down on those demon beasts with low IQ from the bottom of his heart. And the fight between demon beasts, it was not any less than the fight between demon beasts and humans. So, Niu Dali did not feel any grief or indignation about the demon beasts being slaughtered. He was only worried about the possible danger he might face. Fortunately, when the last meeting ended, No one attacked him, the Nyo demon. Chapter 229. Master, there are 2 people from the celestial sect at the foot of the mountain asking for an audience. Celestial sect? Qin Shujian's eyes flickered a little and said, "Let them come up." Yes. An inner sect deacon turned around and left. In the Chengwu Hall, Qin Shujian, on the other hand, stayed there alone. At this moment, the accumulated vital essence in his dantian was gradually recovering, and the burning flame in the center of the vital essence. It gave him a terrifying feeling. It was as if the flame was drawn out, even a physical invulnerability practitioner could be easily annihilated. As the vital essence continued to recover, the burning flame in his dantian became more and more intense with the vital essence as the fuel. The black silk net was looming. It was as if it would be suppressed by the universal heavenly lock at any time. Qin Shujian's mind was dark, and together with the black silk net, he suppressed the vital essence that was about to break through the shackles. It seems that this time I have really reached the limit. Looking at the changes in his body, he thought to himself, if the 10th level of the martial realm was already able to touch the limit of ordinary people, then the 4 universal heavenly locks now. It meant that he had truly reached the critical point of this world's limit. In a certain sense, he had already surpassed this critical point. With a light touch, the so-called shackles would disappear like flying ashes. Originally, he saw the sky reaching ape coming menacingly. It was as if it was going to destroy the Yuan sect. Considering the opponent's unfathomable strength, Qin Shujian felt that the 2 universal heavenly locks might not be very reliable. In order to avoid a breakthrough during the battle, he directly raised his strength to the peak. As a result, the sky-reaching ape retreated. At the same time, it also made Qin Shujian understand. He, who had condensed 4 universal heavenly locks, might be more terrifying than he imagined, although the shackles could be destroyed with a wave of his hand. However, Qin Shujian did not plan to break through immediately. Looking at the remaining 300,000 points of vital essence, he estimated in his mind, if all of them were piled up, it might not be able to directly promote him from the beginning of the spiritual martial realm to the peak of the spiritual martial realm. So, Qin Shujian planned to press for a bit more. Once everything was ready, he would upgrade spirit realm in one go. At this moment, the people from the celestial sect also entered the Chengwu Hall. Sect master has arrived. All right, you may leave. Yes. The deacon bowed and retreated. Upon seeing Qin Shujian, Zhang Hong and Shuexiang bowed and said, Celestial sect Deacon Zhang Hong, Shuexiang, greets sect leader Qin. The Sky Yuan sect and the Celestial sect have never had any contact with each other. I wonder what the 2 of you are here for. Qin Shujian looked at the 2 of them and said calmly. While speaking, he had no intention of giving them a seat. Regarding this, the 2 of them didn't dare to harbor any resentment. Shuexiang cupped his fists and said, To tell you the truth, ever since my sect heard of your sect's reputation, we've always yearned for sect master Qin. Let's cut the crap and get straight to the point. Shuexiang, who was prepared to give a long speech, was interrupted by Qin Shujian. His expression was a little awkward, but he didn't dare to say anything more. After calming himself down, he changed his tone and continued. The Pill Cauldron sect and the Lin family of the Fallen Dust Domain have a grudge against the Celestial sect. Now that we've heard that the Pill Cauldron sect and the Lin family are hiding in your sect, we hope that Sect Master Qin can return these people to us. As a reward, Sect Master Qin can name any price you want. As long as it's reasonable, we won't say anything. Pill Cauldron sect, Lin family? Qin Shujian's eyes flashed with doubt. He knew about the Pill Cauldron sect, but when did they have anything to do with the Lin family? But doubt was doubt. Whether or not the Celestial sect had received the wrong information, it had nothing to do with him. On Liang Mountain, there are only people from the Sky Yuan sect. There are no Pill Cauldron sect or Lin family survivors. Please return. Sect Master Qin, why do you have to make things difficult for the Celestial sect for these survivors? You must know that our sect is sincere in building a good relationship with your sect. Shuexiang's expression was ugly as he continued. As long as Sect Master Qin is willing to hand these people over, our sect will definitely fulfill your request. Don't you understand what I'm saying? Sect Master Qin, I'll give you 3 breaths of time. If you leave, I can pretend that nothing happened. Shuexiang still wanted to say something, but Zhang Hong secretly pulled him back. Soon after, Zhang Hong cupped his hands and said, "Looks like we've made a mistake. We hope that Sect Master Qin won't be offended. We'll take our leave now." After he finished speaking, he pulled Shuexiang and left. Seeing this, Qin Shujian didn't do anything. He didn't force the 2 of them to stay, and didn't do anything else. After all, when 2 armies fight, they don't kill envoys. Furthermore, the Sky Yuan sect and the Celestial sect weren't at war. The other party came to their door so politely. He couldn't possibly force them to stay. As for Shun Yuqing and Shun Yuhua, Qin Shujian never thought of handing them over. After all, right now, Yuan sect's alchemy and blacksmithing halls were supported by the 2 of them. The supply of pills to Yuan sect disciples couldn't be cut off. As for the Lin family, Qin Shujian shook his head. It was just as he said. Once they entered Yuan sect, they were part of it. As for their previous identities, they could abandon them. Anyway, they were now disciples of Yuan sect. There wasn't much of a problem in terms of loyalty. Soon after, Qin Shujian stood up and left Qingwu Hall. On the other side, Zhang Hong and Shuexiang went down Liang Mountain. Then, they walked out of Liang Mountain. At this moment, their expressions were somewhat unsightly. Although Celestial Sect didn't strongly request for this mission, they had to complete it. But if they went back with their tails between their legs, nothing good would happen. Shuexiang's expression was ugly as he said in a low voice, "Yuan sect doesn't intend to hand over the remaining members of Pill Cauldron sect and Lin family. What should we do? What else can we do?" Zhang Hong glanced at him and shook his head. The Yuan sect has condensed 4 universal skylocks and has a Dao artifact to protect the sect. Does Yuan sect have the confidence to fight against Celestial sect? We can't do anything to them in the True Dominion. He was very clear. If the news of the 4 universal skylocks spread back, the elders in Celestial sect would probably give up on Yuan sect for the time being. After all, in the True Dominion, the existence of the 4 universal skylocks was the symbol of invincibility. According to Celestial sect's records, such an expert hadn't appeared for more than 1,000 years. The reason why there were records of the universal skylocks was because the Celestial sect had a deep foundation and existed in the falling dust territory for more than 1,000 years. Rumor has it that the 4 universal skylocks can break the shackles of the True Dominion and become the Spirit Dominion's protectorate lord. Zhang Hong took a deep breath and said in a low voice, "We have to report this as soon as possible." All right. While they were talking, the 2 of them didn't dare to slow down. Qin Shujian didn't make them stay. But given that he didn't have a good impression of Celestial sect, it was very likely that Luo Jiang would die in his hands. There was no guarantee. When did he go back on his word? Suddenly, he attacked and killed the 2 of them. The 2 of them were on tenterhooks as they left the True Dominion quickly. When they had completely left the True Dominion, only then did they feel relieved. Subsequently, the 2 of them headed directly to the ancient city of the Spirit Resonance True Dominion. There weren't many cities with teleportation doors. Only 1 or 2 cities in each True Dominion had teleportation doors. As for teleportation doors, they were divided into 2 types. One type existed specifically in the inner city and was used by the Imperial Court to deploy troops and generals. It was also used by people of high status in the Imperial Court. The other type only required a high price and some status, but it didn't require people of the Imperial Court to use it. Zhang Hong and the 2 of them naturally chose the latter. It took them more than 2 days to reach the ancient city. The 2 of them showed their Celestial Sect tokens and paid a certain fee before disappearing into the teleportation door. On the other side, Qin Shujian, on the other hand, stayed in his courtyard as usual. However, it was different from when he cultivated silently in the past. Now, he was mainly doing something. He was trying his best to suppress his strength so that he wouldn't be able to break through the shackles. As for the players, after the beast tide, many of them had been lacking in contribution points. However, they had recovered quite a bit now. Their contribution points had also recovered. The first thing they did was convert their contribution points into their own strength. In the library, Xiao Junyi paid 100 contribution points and went up to the 3rd level. He walked to the familiar bookshelf. After a short search, he picked out a martial technique and sat down to read it carefully. This was already the 5th time he had entered the library this month. When he thought about how he had to spend 100 contribution points each time he entered, Qin Shujian's heart ached. Xiao Junyi's heart ached. It's a pity that using the recording function in the library is useless. Otherwise, I would be able to empty the library after entering a few more times. I wouldn't have to waste so many contribution points each time. He sighed in his heart before shaking his head secretly. Actually, he had tried to use the recording function before. Many players in the game had the same idea and made the same attempt. However, there was no exception. Any recorded martial technique, once it was broadcasted, it would only be a blank. The content would be completely blocked by the game. This was also indirect. Players who wanted to find loopholes in the game by taking advantage of the sects could only sigh in disappointment. After learning this martial technique, I should be able to get a good ranking in the competition in 2 days. By then, it would be a huge sum of money. Soon after, Xiao Junyi thought about it again. The 100 contribution points didn't seem to be that painful anymore. Soon after, he started to focus on the martial technique in front of him and memorized it using his own memory. 2 hours wasn't a long time, but it wasn't short either. If it was converted to a player's concept of time, it would be equivalent to 2 hours. When there was still 10 minutes left, Xiao Junyi finally closed the martial technique in his hands and put it back to its original position. He then turned around and left the library. Chapter 230. With the revival of the spirit qi in the real world, many people tried to cultivate martial arts in the real world and had different gains. Over time, many competitions were held in various places. They were nothing more than a competition between cultivators. If one could get a ranking, one could also get a generous reward. The competition that Xiao Junyi was about to participate in was similar to this. Or even, many of the Yuanzong's players stayed in the library during this period of time. After all, elixirs were good, but they could only be used in the game. Martial arts, they could cultivate outside of the game. However, there was something strange. Some players had tried to write down martial arts in the real world and give it to others to cultivate. However, there was no effect at all. It was no different from a fake secret manual bought from a roadside stall. This put an end to it. There were some players who wanted to use other means to sell their martial arts skills from the game. Regarding the abnormalities of the Yuan sect players, Qin Shujian could not be bothered. In his opinion, the only thing he had to do, he had to suppress his cultivation level as much as possible and wait for the accumulation of life force. Then, he would break through the shackles of the true dominion and reach the peak of the spirit dominion. Before that, Qin Shujian used another 40 luck points to upgrade Qian Shanxue to a 2-seal Dao artifact. A 2-seal Dao artifact. Its power was far beyond a 1-seal Dao artifact. If a 1-seal Dao artifact could easily kill a physical invulnerability cultivator in the true dominion, a 2-seal Dao artifact, it could make a physical invulnerability cultivator bow down just by leaking its aura. The Dao artifact is divided into 9 seals. It is not bad to be able to reach 2 seals, the cosmic Bao said sourly as it looked at Qian Shanxue. It was envious in its heart. Only it knew the answer to that question. How long had it been? The original 1-seal Dao artifact had been upgraded to a 2-seal Dao artifact. The cosmic Bao was sure that Qin Shujian definitely had the means to upgrade the Dao artifact. When it saw Qian Shanxue leveling up, it also wanted to ask Qian Shanxue to help it level up. However, it only dared to think about it, but it did not dare to say it out loud. Qin Shujian stroked the crystal blade with his palm, and the engraved Dao seal faintly appeared. After hearing this, he couldn't help but ask, "Have you seen a 9-seal Dao artifact?" "No." The Bao of heaven and earth's ancient voice sounded. The inherited memories of connate spiritual objects are very ancient. Some terrifying existences can even leave their imprints in the world and pass them on as memories. Although I have never seen a true 9-seal Dao artifact, I know from my memories that once a Dao artifact reaches 9 seals, it is almost comparable to Zhu Bing to a certain extent. Isn't Zhu Bing an existence above Tao artifacts? It's different. The Bow of Heaven and Earth explained slowly. Zhu Bing is indeed an existence above Tao artifacts, but it doesn't mean that one can become Zhu Bing after breaking through the limits of Tao artifacts. Or rather, a 9-seal Tao artifact was the limit that any divine weapon in the world could reach. As for Zhu Bing, he is above Tao treasures and is an existence that distinguishes Tao treasures. It is not that simple. Hearing this, Qin Shujian seemed to have a better understanding of the concept of Zhu Bing. At the same time, he was also surprised by the inherited memories of connate spiritual objects. However, there were many connate spiritual objects. There were very few of them whose spiritual wisdom could grow to the level of the Bow of Heaven and Earth. The right time, the right place, and the right people. Everything couldn't be missing. Or else, even though connate spiritual objects had the memory imprint of heaven and earth, it was difficult for them to express it completely if their spiritual wisdom was not high enough. There was an old man in the family. It was like a treasure. Qin Shujian also had a deeper feeling about this sentence. The Bow of Heaven and Earth, which had existed for thousands of years, could be considered a different kind of old man. Qin Shujian suddenly asked, "Do you know what realm the supreme expert of this world is in?" "I know, but I can't say." "Can't say? My current level is not high enough. If I force myself to say it, I'm afraid my body and soul will be destroyed." The Bow of Heaven and Earth seemed to tremble for a moment. The bowstring buzzed slightly, and an old voice sounded. "Once the realm reaches a certain level, even if it's just mentioning something, it will suffer unpredictable changes. Do you think I can reach that level in the future?" The Bow of Heaven and Earth was silent for a while. Finally, on the bow, a voice sounded. "Those who can condense for universal heavenly locks have the capital to become the supreme expert. The sect master is a dragon among men. If you have the chance to step into that realm in the future, your possibility will be much higher than others." Such an answer. It was very pertinent, and there was no bragging in it. Qin Shujian stretched out his hand, and the Bow of Heaven and Earth fell into his hand. "If you were a Tao artifact, what is the probability of killing evil demons in the ordinary realm by yourself?" Suddenly, the Bow of Heaven and Earth trembled. The other party's words had already given it a faint premonition. So when Qin Shujian finished speaking, the Bow of Heaven and Earth replied without thinking, "If I can become a 1-seal Tao artifact with the current cloud-piercing arrow, as long as it's not an evil demon sealed with 7-star radiance or above, I can kill it. If it's an evil demon sealed with 7-star radiance or above, it needs to be promoted to a 2-seal Tao artifact. If it's combined with the sect master's 2-seal Tao artifact, all the sealed evil demons in the ordinary realm can be killed." "Good. I'll give you this opportunity." "Thank you, sect master." Hearing this, the Bow of Heaven and Earth became even more excited. Then, Qin Shujian placed his palm on the Bow of Heaven and Earth. Then, the attributes of this spiritual item also appeared in his eyes. Looking at the words, "can be upgraded," out of the remaining 40 luck points, he spent 30 luck points on it. Wind. A terrifying hurricane swept across the sky. Then, he saw a large amount of heaven and earth spirit chi swarming over. Then, the shadow of a large bow appeared on the summit of Mount Liang. A vast and mighty power spread out from it. Everyone within a radius of several hundred miles around Mount Liang could feel this frightening pressure. But everyone who felt this power looked at the sky in horror, at the slowly dissipating illusion of the large bow. Many people were shocked, and a trace of doubt rose in their hearts. When? Yuan Zhong now had another terrifying weapon. However, those who had seen the Bow of Heaven and Earth unconsciously associated it with their minds. But compared to the 1,000 Mountain Blood's Tao artifact name, regarding the Bow of Heaven and Earth, they only thought it was an ordinary weapon. But now the situation. This proved that the large bow was not an ordinary existence. On the peak of Mount Liang, at this moment, the appearance of the Bow of Heaven and Earth had changed a little. The originally dark green body of the bow had now become jade-like green. A Tao seal was engraved on the bow. A formless aura was emitted from it. The surrounding wind swept and wreaked havoc, but within a radius of 1 zhang around the Bow of Heaven and Earth, there was no wind at all. It was as if this longbow was like a god of the wind, controlling the power of heaven and earth. Tao Seal of Wind. At this moment, the bow of heaven and earth felt that the power it contained had reached an unprecedented level. At the same time, it felt even more reverence for the power Qin Shujian controlled. Almost in an instant, the bow of heaven and earth had been upgraded from a middle-grade spiritual artifact to a one-seal Tao artifact. This kind of power, it was enough to make people fearful. However, although it was in awe, the bow of heaven and earth was still surprised. A one-seal Tao artifact. This was definitely a great opportunity. If it was allowed to upgrade by itself, it might not be able to reach this level even after 1 or 2,000 years. At this moment, the bow of heaven and earth was already confident. By relying on the grade of his one-seal Tao artifact, he would not need to use that broken saber to deal with the evil spirit-breaking seal. He would be able to deal with the evil spirit-breaking seal by himself. If the piercing cloud arrow could also be upgraded to a Tao artifact grade, its strength would definitely double. However, the bow of heaven and earth was only thinking about it. Being able to upgrade to a one-seal Tao artifact was already a great opportunity. As for whether the piercing cloud arrow could obtain such an opportunity, it would depend on its own luck. After the gale subsided, Qin Shujian directly took out the piercing cloud arrow and threw the remaining 10 luck points into it. Another huge commotion was heard. However, compared to the movement caused by the bow of heaven and earth just now, this time, the movement was obviously smaller. After a long time, on the body of the piercing cloud arrow, half a Tao seal appeared. This middle-grade spiritual artifact. It had also officially stepped into the ranks of a half-step Tao artifact. At this point, all the remaining luck points had been used up, and there was no more left. In the courtyard, Qin Shujian was still sitting in his original position. It was different from when he was alone in the past. Now in the courtyard, there were also 2 more people. Outer Sect Elder Zhang Ergu and Zhao Shanlin, who had also been promoted from an Outer Sect Deacon to an Outer Sect Elder. Zhang Ergu naturally did not need to be said. The other party was the original bandit of the Cold Mountain Stronghold, and his loyalty had always been in the state of being loyal to the death. As for Zhao Shanlin, after such a long time, his loyalty had also risen sharply, reaching the level of 100 points of full loyalty. Full loyalty. Although it did not mean that he was loyal to the death, there was not much difference. At the level of full loyalty, as long as there were no major changes, there was basically no possibility of reducing his loyalty, let alone betrayal. As for those who did not reach full loyalty, even if his loyalty had reached 99 points, it would still fluctuate from time to time. However, it was not easy for a person to reach full loyalty. Among the tens of thousands of people in the Yuan sect, according to Qin Shujian's observation, there were not many people who had really reached full loyalty. Do you know why I asked you to come here? Sect Master, please tell us. Zhao Shanlin and Zhang Ergu looked at each other and both cupped their hands and said. Qin Shujian did not say directly, but took out 2 maps and directly placed them in front of the 2. When the 2 picked up the maps, he opened his mouth and said, "These 2 maps record the locations of the demons in the ordinary realm of the North Cloud Mansion." Hearing that, the 2 also spread out the maps and looked at them a few times. Then their eyes fell back on Qin Shujian, a map that recorded the seal of the demons. Whether it was Zhang Ergu or Zhao Shanlin, they could not understand what their sect master meant. It couldn't be. He wanted them to release the sealed demons and then create a demon disaster. So, both of them were waiting for Qin Shujian's next words. You guys follow the locations recorded on the map and release the demons one by one. Both of their faces changed greatly. It was really releasing the demons to create a demon disaster. Looking at the 2's changed faces, Qin Shujian did not keep them in suspense and said directly, "I will give you something. When the demons are born, kill them directly." Speaking of which, the storage ring on his hand flashed slightly, and a bow and arrow appeared in his hand. This is the Tao artifact Tranquil bow and the half-step Tao artifact cloud-piercing arrow. With it, you can kill the demons sealed in the 7-star array or below. I will temporarily give them to you. As Qin Shujian spoke, the Tranquil bow and the cloud-piercing arrow floated up and then landed in front of Zhang Ergu. Seeing this, Zhang Ergu could not help but reach out and hold the bow and arrow in his hand. At this moment, whether it was him or Zhao Shanlin, their eyes were focused on the Qinkuan bow and the cloud-piercing arrow. Dao artifact, especially Zhang Ergu. He had never thought that one day he would be able to hold a Dao artifact in his hand. Although the Qinkuan bow was now restrained and did not show the power it should have. However, Zhang Ergu could still sense a hidden and terrifying power from the bow. After that, the storage ring flashed again, and a long saber with a black scabbard directly appeared in Qin Shujian's hand. Suddenly, Zhao Shanlin's eyes were fixed on the long saber. Seeing the familiar scabbard, it was the Dao artifact that their sect master had been carrying in the past, and it was also the real treasure of Yuan's sect that was rumored to be. This is the Dao artifact Qinkuan blood. It can kill demons sealed in the 7-star array and below. I will temporarily give it to you to use. Qin Shujian stroked the scabbard with his palm, and then a faint sound was heard. Then the Qinkuan blood left his palm. Then it flew towards Zhao Shanlin. Seeing this, Zhao Shanlin immediately came back to his senses and respectfully received the Qinkuan blood with both hands. At the same time, he said respectfully, "Thank you for the treasure, sect master. Thank you for the treasure, sect master." After the surprise, Zhang Ergu also came back to his senses and hurriedly thanked him. Qin Shujian's face gradually became solemn, and he said in a deep voice, "The world is not stable now, and there is a great hidden danger in the seal of the demons. Once they accidentally break the seal, it will set off a demon disaster. At that time, the people will be in a terrible situation. Today, with the Dao artifact of Yuan's sect, you must kill all the demons sealed in the ordinary realm. Do not let them escape. Otherwise, when the demon disaster arises, you will be the sinner of Baiyun Mansion." "We understand." Both of them felt a chill in their hearts and replied seriously. Qin Shujian continued, "If you encounter the demons sealed in the 8-star array or 9-star array, don't act alone. You can only kill the demons with the help of the 2 Dao artifacts. In addition, you only have 3 months. After 3 months, no matter if the demons are killed or not, you must return with the Dao artifact." Seeing the solemn look on their faces, he paused and finally cut to the last point. "Every time you kill a demon, you will get 500 contribution points. At the same time, there is a Dao seal on the Dao artifact. If you can comprehend it, you can improve your cultivation. It is also one of the rewards for this mission." Chapter 231. 500 Contribution Points. After hearing this, the two's eyes lit up. The Origin sect's contribution points were becoming more and more useful. However, in comparison, it was also very difficult to obtain contribution points. Or else, Zhang Ergu wouldn't fall to the point of being a fighter for the players. One evil spirit was worth 500 contribution points. The two of them looked at the areas circled on the map and were very excited. If they could take all of them, each of them would be able to obtain tens of thousands of contribution points. Needless to say, when they borrowed the Dao artifact, they could also gain insight into the Dao seal within it. Just based on the words, "increase one's cultivation level," this was already very attractive. Therefore, without any hesitation, Zhang Ergu and Zhao Shanlin immediately agreed. Qin Shujian said, "There is no time to lose. Make some preparations and go down the mountain." "Yes, sir." The two of them nodded in response. As he watched the two of them leave, Qin Shujian did not get up. Instead, he sat in front of the stone table and sipped his spirit tea. The reason he had asked Zhang Ergu and Zhao Shanlin to kill the evil spirits was because, firstly, the power of the Dao artifact would allow him to kill the evil spirits that had just broken out of the seal and had yet to fully recover their strength. Secondly, it was because he was alone. The seal locations on the map were almost everywhere in the Baiyun prefecture. Even though he used the teleportation door to travel back and forth, it would still take a lot of time. More importantly, the Origin sect no longer needed the Dao artifact to guard the sect in the True Dominion. Qin Shujian himself, this was the strongest deterrent force to suppress a sect. An expert who had condensed 4 universal heavenly locks. In the True Dominion, It was not any weaker than a Dao artifact guarding the sect. In fact, it was even possible that he was a few times stronger. In view of this, Qin Shujian had given the Dao artifact to the two of them. As for whether the two of them would escape with the Dao artifact, he did not have much concern. The Dao artifact had an amazing spirituality when it recognized its owner. If one was loyal to the other, there was no possibility of betrayal. On the other side, Zhang Ergu and Zhao Shanlin quickly left Mount Liang and headed straight for the Lingxi True Domain. They also knew quite a lot about the True Dominion that existed around the Liang Mountain True Dominion and where the teleportation doors existed. The Blue River True Dominion also had a teleportation gate. However, if one were to really calculate the distance, the ancient city was still relatively close. For the two of them, 3 months was a race against time. Too much was wasted. Perhaps it was the loss of hundreds or thousands of contribution points. Furthermore, Zhang Ergu and Zhao Shanlin were both 5th-stage true martial realm inner aura realm cultivators. They were considered great experts in the True Dominion and had Dao weapons with them. Therefore, they had no qualms about walking around the True Dominion. In less than 2 days, the two of them arrived at the ancient city. "I'm going to the Anlin True Dominion. Where do you want to go first?" Zhang Ergu tilted his head and asked. Zhao Shanlin pondered for a while and said, "Since you're in the Anlin True Dominion, I'll head to the Fengxing True Dominion, 2 True Dominion, one in the south and the other in the north." "All right, we'll meet in the Eastern Ming True Dominion's Jade Illumination City after we've eliminated all the evil spirits below the 7-star level." "No problem." Zhao Shanlin nodded slightly. Near the Eastern Ming True Dominion, there was an 8-star array that sealed the evil spirits. Qin Shujian had already told them about it. If they wanted to deal with an evil spirit of this level, they would need the combined power of 2 Dao weapons. Therefore, the two of them did not dare make a decision on their own. Or else, once the demons escaped and set off a devil calamity, they would be the sinners of the Baiyun Manor, just like what they said earlier. If this matter was exposed, it would also have a great impact on the reputation of the Origin sect. After asking a simple question, the two of them immediately found the teleportation gate. They simply showed the Origin sect's identity card, paid a fee, and used the teleportation gate to leave. Almost every few days, Qin Shujian would receive a notification that the Providence points had been transferred to his account. It was just as he had guessed. He had used his Dao weapon to kill the evil spirit, so the Providence points would be credited to him. However, the Origin sect was relatively peaceful now. In the Thousand Mountains Prefecture, flames of war had already risen everywhere. The former Thousand Mountains Marquee Palace had now become the center of half of the Thousand Mountains Prefecture. In the main hall of the Marquee Palace, a tall middle-aged man wearing a black and gold python robe and a black and gold belt around his waist was sitting on the main seat. This was the Marquis Qianshan. He had been in charge of the Thousand Mountains Prefecture for hundreds of years, protecting the stability of the prefecture. Now, he was the first to rebel, causing the flames of war to rise everywhere in the Thousand Mountains Prefecture. The Marquis Qianshan. Gu Chongqing. Marquis, we have already occupied half of the Thousand Mountains Prefecture. Although the Great Zhao has been sending reinforcements, they are powerless against the heaven-sealing earth-locking array. I think that we should establish a state title now and make everyone in the Thousand Mountains Prefecture submit. This way, everyone will definitely respond. When the time comes, we will have a great victory and overthrow the Great Zhao Imperial Court. Zhang He glanced at everyone and stood up first with cupped fists. He was originally the deputy general of one of the generals under the Marquis Qianshan. As the war rose, he took the opportunity to make many contributions and was promoted to a general. Now, he had the right to sit in the main hall and discuss matters. To this, Zhang He had always treasured this opportunity and hoped that he could be put in an important position by the Marquis Qianshan so that he could use this opportunity to advance further. He believed there were many people who wanted the Marquis Qianshan to establish a state, but as the first to propose it, his reputation would spread. Establish a state? The Marquis Qianshan glanced at Zhang He and then looked at the other generals in the main hall. He asked, "Do you also want me to establish a state?" As he finished speaking, another person stood up and cupped his fists. Marquis, General Jiang is right. If we can establish a state, we will win people's hearts. As the main force against the tyranny of the Great Zhao, we will definitely attract people's support. I agree. As for the others, most of them agreed. Only a very small number of people remained silent. Seeing this, the Marquis Qinshan shook his head and said with slight disappointment, "Do you know why there are many forces resisting the Great Zhao, but none of the existing forces have the idea of establishing a state? They are not strong enough. Then do you know why the Marquis of Yifeng established a state but was destroyed? The Marquis of Yifeng is just an idle marquis. How can he be compared to you? Marquis? Fine, let's not talk about establishing a state for now. Let's talk about it after the Thousand Mountains Prefecture is pacified. This marquis is a bit tired. You can all leave." The Marquis Qinshan picked up the teacup at the side and ordered the guests to leave. "We will leave." The others did not dare to say more and all stood to leave. Very quickly, only the Marquis Qinshan remained in the main hall. A long while later, a barely discernible sigh sounded. The Marquis Qinshan shook his head and sneered. In the end, they are a group of boorish people who only know how to fight. It is a pity that they do not have a military advisor. If it was about establishing a state, he wanted to do it more than anyone else. But thinking was just thinking. Whether he could do it was another matter. Everyone only knew. Right now, in the Thousand Mountains Prefecture, the Great Zhao was at a disadvantage. Most of the territory had fallen into their hands. They thought that the imperial court was powerless. But in reality, only the Marquis Qinshan knew. As long as the human emperor had not died, then no one could establish a state in the Great Zhao. The last person to do so was the Marquis of Yifeng. Now, his clan had been destroyed and his bloodline had been completely severed. The Marquis Qinshan did not want to become the next stepping stone. According to the High Priest's divination, the human emperor has at most 10 years before his lifespan ends. At that time, it will be the best time for you to establish a state and call yourself king. Black mist surged. A person wearing a long black robe suddenly appeared in the main hall. A hoarse voice like that of a crow came from the hood. The appearance of this person, the Marquis Qinshan, was not surprised at all. 10 years? Hearing this news, his face seemed to imperceptibly twitch. Then he looked at the person with a ghost of a smile and asked, "Is the high priest of your clan well?" The divination backfired. He died and his Tao disappeared. He recklessly divined the fate of the human emperor. It is natural that he would suffer such a backlash. Although the high priest has died, the result of his divination is enough. In the next few years, the Great Zhao will be even more unstable. As the strongest force in the rebel army, you should have a greater advantage. Then what do you think I should do? The Marquis Qinshan asked with a slight smile. The black-robed person said in a hoarse voice, "My clan thinks you should take the initiative to completely subdue the Thousand Mountains Prefecture." As soon as he finished speaking, a terrifying power rose from the Marquis Qinshan's body. Then, it directly bombarded the black-robed person half a meter away. After landing, he spat out a mouthful of dark green blood from his hood. The Marquis Qinshan's smile was no longer there. He said with a cold expression, "When did it become your place to tell me what to do?" Boom! The black-robed person had just stood up and opened his mouth when he was bombarded by an invisible wind. In an instant, he flew a little more and spat out another mouthful of dark green blood. "Also, remember to call me Marquis in front of me. Otherwise, you will lose your seniority." "I will definitely pass on Marquis's words." This time, the black-robed person did not dare to say anything more. He struggled to get up from the ground, then bowed his head and cupped his hands. Then, a faint black mist surged from his body and he disappeared in an instant. After the black-robed person had completely left, the Marquis Qinshan's eyes flickered. A shocking murderous intent was brewing in them, but it was quickly concealed. Now was not the time to make a move. He had to fight against the Great Zhao army. He could not leave the other party's support, or else, with the black-robed person's rudeness just now, he would have already sent him to the Western Paradise. How could he let him escape? In the end, what he did just now was just to give the other party a deterrent and a warning to the forces behind him, to let them understand. Don't try to interfere too much. He, the Marquis Qianshan, was not a puppet that could be manipulated by others. After a long time, in the main hall that had fallen into silence, a faintly discernible voice seemed to be ringing out. Those who are not of my clan must have different intentions. Chapter 232. How long do you think it will take for me to reach the level of physical invulnerability if I comprehend the Tao Seal? TSK, with your talent, it will probably take a few months. A man and a bow walked in the wilderness. Zhang Ergu turned his head from time to time to talk to the bow of heaven and earth. It had been more than a month. He was convinced by this Tao artifact bow of heaven and earth. Needless to say, it was powerful. Many people saw the extraordinariness of the bow of heaven and earth and wanted to snatch it. There were even physical invulnerability cultivators among them. The result was, without waiting for him to escape, the Cosmos Bow killed all of them in a matter of seconds. As for when he was facing the demons, his role was to break the seal. The only thing left to solve the problem was to rely on the bow of heaven and earth. So, Zhang Ergu was sincerely impressed by the power of the bow of heaven and earth. However, what he really admired was the profound knowledge of the bow of heaven and earth. They talked along the way. Zhang Ergu realized there was basically nothing that the bow of heaven and earth didn't know. Even if it was guidance on cultivation, it also benefited him a lot. Along the way, instead of saying that he went out to kill demons, it was more like following an expert grandpa and going out to train. Hearing the bow of heaven and earth, Zhang Ergu smiled and said, "It's enough to reach the physical invulnerability realm in a few months. In the past, it would be enough." Elder Qian, what do you mean? With 2 Tao artifacts, I think the sect's luck has reached its peak. If it goes any further, it might be time for the sect to advance. The bow of heaven and earth was in the air. An old voice came from it. Since ancient times, there haven't been many 5th grade forces. But if it can be promoted to a 5th grade force, the benefits will be great. The higher your realm before the promotion, the more benefits it will have after the promotion. 2 Tao artifacts guarding the sect. One of them was a 2-seal Tao artifact. With the bow of heaven and earth's inherited memories and sharp senses, how could it not notice the change in luck? Even though luck was ethereal and invisible, it could still sense it. Zhang Ergu's face froze. A 5th grade force. He also understood what the bow of heaven and earth meant. The promotion of a 4th class force had pushed him from the basic martial arts realm to the inner aura realm of the 5th level of the martial arts realm. If they were promoted to a 5th grade force, there was a high probability that he would break through the threshold of the spirit martial realm. In that case, the higher one's cultivation base was, the greater the benefits one could obtain from the advancement of one's forces. After all, no matter how the true martial realm was, it was much easier to raise the realm than the spirit martial realm. The Chinkoan Bao said, "I suggest that you exchange all your contribution points for elixirs to increase your cultivation after you go back. Don't worry about your foundation being unstable. You'll have plenty of time to slowly consolidate it in the future." I understand. As a few months passed, the construction of Cold Mountain City could be considered complete. Many odd jobs disciples. At that moment, they all stopped what they were doing and silently looked at the back of the figure on the city wall, not daring to make any noise or cause any disturbance. A few months. These disciples who had surrendered from the various sects had basically gradually adapted to their current lives. Even though they were odd job workers, perhaps it was nothing in Yuan Zong's eyes, but at least he didn't mistreat them. Many of them had even accumulated enough contribution points to get rid of their status as odd job workers and officially become Yuan sect's outer sect disciples. Once they became outer sect disciples, they would be able to enjoy the benefits of Yuan sect, including a series of things that could be exchanged for contribution points. They were all particularly attractive. After all, among the thousands of odd jobs disciples, there would always be some who, after getting along with each other for a few months, had a relatively harmonious relationship with some outer sect disciples, inner sect disciples, or deacons. In the midst of their conversation, they also had a deeper understanding of Yuan sect. So, many people had the idea of joining Yuan sect. Compared to the sect they were originally in, No matter how one looked at it, Yuan's sect was several times better than the sect they were originally in. Moreover, since these people could surrender, it proved that they didn't have much of a sense of belonging to their original sect. However, regarding their thoughts, Qin Shujian didn't care too much. It would be best if odd job workers could be converted. It would also save him some trouble of slowly nurturing disciples from the bottom. If he couldn't, then so be it. Standing on the city wall, Qin Shujian looked at the entire cold mountain city. For universe, heavenly locks had already quietly appeared. Under the activation of terrifying true essence, the shaking heaven and earth spirit chi swarmed over. Immediately, he took a step into the air and directly floated in the air above the city. His fingers were like a brush of heaven and earth. The spirit chi gathered like the tide of the sea. Immediately after, he carved in the air and a huge rune appeared in the sky. Quick! When the rune appeared, Qin Shujian turned his finger into a palm and directly slammed it into the ground of the city below. Buzz! An invisible wave spread out. The city didn't change at all. However, when one looked carefully, it seemed to be a little different. At this moment, many experts of Yuan's sect gathered here and looked at Qin Shujian, who was standing in the air above the city. With a wave of his hand, the heaven and earth spirit chi could be seen rolling back and then turning into runes, or hidden in the void, or smashed into the city below. A vast and mighty aura spread out from the center of the Liang Mountain. Void seal engraving, waving his hand to create runes. He is indeed a top-notch forging master. Shan Yuqing looked greedily at the scene in front of her, as if she wanted to engrave everything in her mind. A top-notch forging master. One more step, and she would be able to reach the Grandmaster level. As for the Grandmaster level, that was already close to the peak of the forging path. Even the former Pill Cauldron sect, there was no Grandmaster level forging master at all. If Yuan's sect could produce a Grandmaster level forging master, Shan Yuqing believed, all the forging masters in the world would definitely come and join Yuan's sect without any conditions in order to be able to get close to the Grandmaster. It was like a pilgrimage. If they could get 1 or 2 pointers, it would be enough for some people to enjoy endless benefits. Not to mention anything else, just based on Qin Shujian's identity as a top-notch forging master, she believed that many middle-grade and even upper-grade forging masters would come because of his reputation. Thinking of this, a sense of crisis rose in Shan Yuqing's heart. Now, excluding Qin Shujian, she was the only middle-grade forging master in Yuan's sect. The other party would still put her in an important position. If a few more middle-grade and even upper-grade forging masters came, she was afraid that her position as the head of the forging hall would be unstable. No, I have to break through to become an upper-grade forging master as soon as possible. Shan Yuqing was determined, but her gaze never left Qin Shujian's figure and the runes carved in the void. Rumble. As more and more runes were carved, more and more heaven-earth spirit energy was attracted. Very soon, 90% of the heaven-earth spirit energy in the entire Liang Mountain True Dominion was forcefully pulled over. In an instant, everyone who was cultivating felt the surrounding heaven-earth spirit energy become scarce in an instant. They could not help but withdraw from their cultivation state. When they walked out, they saw a huge phenomenon in the distant sky. It was Yuan's sect again. Seeing the location of the anomaly, almost everyone had the same thought in their minds. If it was in the Liang Mountain True Dominion, which sect could cause such a change? Only Yuan's sect could do that. At that moment, Qin Shujian was already enveloped by a huge amount of heaven-earth spirit energy. The 4 universal heavenly locks pierced through the void, causing the surrounding True Dominion to be able to see the heavenly locks clearly. He looked solemn. With a wave of his hand, his fingertips moved and a rune appeared instantly. Runes fell one after another. The entire Liang Mountain city was enveloped by a layer of dense light. On the 4 walls, mysterious runes appeared out of thin air and quickly spread across all the walls, as if they had formed a whole. Boom! Heaven and earth roared. Thunderbolts seemed to be rolling. In an instant, black clouds covered the sky, and purple thunderbolts filled the sky. The next moment, thunderbolts as thick as an adult's arm struck down. In the sky above Cold Mountain City, countless runes appeared in the void. Then, they transformed into a huge shield, enveloping the entire cold mountain city within. When the thunderbolts fell, the shield shook slightly, but there were no signs of it breaking. Instead, the power of the thunderbolts was drawn down by the shield and fell directly into the city. In an instant, the entire Liang Mountain city seemed to be flashing with thunderbolts. The runes that appeared on the walls also seemed to be merging. Boom, boom. Thunderbolts fell continuously, one after another, without any gaps. The shield shook violently, and many runes appeared in the void. As the thunderbolts struck, the shield shook even more violently, and the runes seemed to be about to collapse at any time. However, Qin Shujian had already landed in the center of the city. Looking at the thunderbolts falling from the sky, his face was solemn, but he had no intention of making a move. Heavenly Thunder Forging City. The sect master wants to forge the entire Liang Mountain city into a spiritual weapon. Shun Yuqing could no longer maintain her calm, and she suddenly cried out in alarm. Hearing her words, the rest of the people also turned to look at him. He was now proficient in forging. Only Shun Yuqing was present. Although they had seen the changes in Liang Mountain City, they did not know what was going on. However, after Shun Yuqing exclaimed, she did not say anything else. She did not intend to answer the other people's questions. Instead, she did not dare to relax at all as she watched what was happening in front of her. A top forging master was displaying his skills in front of her. If she did not comprehend it now, after everything was over, it would be too late to regret it. At this moment, dense thunderbolts fell from the sky, forming a terrifying sea of thunder. In Liang Mountain City, the runes were shining brightly. Only the shield was able to withstand the thunderbolts. Then, the power of the thunderbolts gathered in the city, melting and absorbing this terrifying power. As for the runes that formed the shield, at this moment, most of them had already collapsed. Chapter 233. The broken runes condensed in the air and slowly gathered towards the center of the thunderbolts. When the last rune was completely broken, an uncountable amount of rune fragments gathered. In the end, it turned into a huge rune. Immediately, it was completely hidden in the air. At this moment, the protective shield had disappeared. The thunderbolts continued to fall. However, when the descending thunderbolts were about 20 feet above Liangshan City, they seemed to have encountered some kind of terrifying attack and disappeared without a trace. Bang! Bang! More than 2 hours passed. No matter how the thunderbolt struck, Cold Mountain City was not affected at all. By the time the last bolt of lightning struck down, the dark clouds in the sky disappeared without a trace. However, a terrifying wave of energy exploded from Cold Mountain City. Qin Shujian stepped into the air. The 4 universal heavenly chains trembled in the air. The silver chains seemed to have terrifying flames burning within them. In his dantian, the black net that was like a shackle had quietly disintegrated. An open flame that was fueled by vital essence burst out in an instant. In an instant, heaven and earth shook. Qin Shujian looked at his own attributes and then focused on the luck value. Immediately, the familiar fusion interface appeared once again. Driven by his thoughts, the 7 cultivation techniques that he cultivated were all placed in the grid. After the cultivation technique was placed in, the lattice immediately became overflowing with light and vibrant colors. At the same time, the system's information also appeared. Without thinking, he directly chose to fuse. You have consumed the origin code. You have consumed the raging flame technique. You have consumed the ocean origin returning technique. You have consumed the great dream spirit capturing technique. You have consumed the wind thunder true technique. You have consumed the 10,000 mysterious technique. You have consumed the limitless universe technique. You have consumed 30 luck value. You have obtained an unknown cultivation technique. Please name it. You have obtained the 21st layer of the unknown cultivation technique. Your strength has increased. Bang! At this moment, Qin Shujian felt that his true essence had reached an unprecedented peak. As far as his eyes could see, the sky was already covered in black nets. However, the open flame burned the sky and directly destroyed the black nets. In an instant, It seemed as if something had been born in Qin Shujian's mind, and an invisible thought swept across the entire Liang Mountain. Soon, this thought covered the entire area. However, the rate at which it was spreading did not stop. In less than a minute, the entire Liang Mountain True Dominion was covered by this intent. Meanwhile, Qin Shujian instantly understood what was going on as if he was enlightened by a stroke of inspiration. Spirit God. Basic martial arts body tempering. Jinwu Qi refinement. The combination of the two would give birth to a spiritual deity. Only the spiritual deity could give birth to them. It meant that a cultivator had officially stepped into the spirit martial realm from the peak of the true martial realm. At this moment, the universe heavenly lock shattered. The entire Liangshan True Dominion was like a giant beast that was greedily absorbing the spirit qi that was traveling between heaven and earth. Immediately, the spiritual qi of heaven and earth, which was as vast as the sea, surged over. Almost half of the Baiyun mansion felt the powerful energy wave. No matter if it was the spirit martial force or the divine martial force. At this moment, they were all looking in the direction of the true dominion of the Liang Mountain. The promotion of the true dominion is like a whale swallowing heaven and earth. An expert has broken through the shackles of the true dominion and become the domain lord of the spirit dominion. In a city, an old Taoist who was setting up a stall suddenly changed his expression. He pinched his fingers and made a slight calculation. A powerful backlash bombarded him, causing him to vomit blood. His eyes were filled with shock. The domain lord of the spirit dominion. How many years had it been since this had happened? 1,000 years. 2,000 years. Then, the old Taoist rejoiced. If he had recklessly calculated a domain lord of the spirit dominion, he could have died from the backlash if he was not careful. He had only vomited 2 mouthfuls of blood. The promotion of the true dominion of the Liang Mountain. Immediately, many of the major sects of the spirit dominion, and even the sects above the spirit dominion, were in an uproar. It was different from the promotion of the ordinary dominion to the true dominion. The promotion of the true dominion to the spirit dominion was definitely a big deal. Looking at the entire Baiyun mansion, after countless years of evolution, there were a total of 17 spirit dominion. This was different from the thousands and hundreds of true dominion. The promotion of each spirit dominion. It meant a change in the strength of the mansion. Similarly, it also meant new resources. A newly promoted spirit dominion would plunder a large amount of heaven-earth spirit qi, which was enough to produce many spirit mountains and rivers in an instant. These spirit mountains and rivers were an irresistible temptation for any sect. Not to mention, under the impact of the spirit qi, it could also produce many rare heaven-earth treasures. These things, every single one of them was priceless. In the Azure Cloud sect, as the heaven-earth spirit qi surged, many strange things happened in the Liang Mountain True Dominion, causing everyone to be shocked. On the other hand, Qing Su looked calm. He raised his head and looked at the sky. There, the black silk net was breaking inch by inch. That was the shackle that prevented everyone from advancing to the spirit martial realm in the Blue River True Dominion. At the same time, it was the barrier that protected the entire Blue River True Dominion. But now, this was both a shackle and a barrier breaking. This meant that the Blue River True Dominion was gradually breaking away from the scope of the True Dominion and advancing to a higher level. It was not just the Blue River True Dominion, the Xuanhua True Dominion, the Spirit Resonance True Dominion, the Tree Ocean True Dominion, the Mystic Void True Dominion, and the surrounding Ordinary Dominion. As long as one's cultivation reached the peak of a certain region, one could see the breaking of the shackles. He has broken the shackles of the True Dominion after all. In the Heaven Saber sect, Gue Haichuan was shocked as he looked at the scene in the sky. Breaking the shackles of the True Dominion. This had always been his innermost wish. However, as he continued to pursue this level, he gradually understood what kind of level he had to reach in order to achieve this. This was especially so when he saw that Qin Shujian's strength, which made people despair, had not been able to break the shackles of the True Dominion. Gue Haichuan also extinguished that arrogant thought of his. Back then, based on the saber intent he had comprehended, he had thought of looking down on everyone in the world. He had laughed self-deprecatingly. Looking at it now, back then, He had been no different from a frog in a well. However, as the shackles of the mystic void true dominion broke, Gue Haichuan also felt as if something was being born in his mind. A powerful intent was being emitted from his body. Liang Mountain True Dominion, Liang Mountain City. Everyone was looking at Qin Shujian, who was standing proudly in the sky. Needless to say, they were shocked by the heaven-earth spirit chi that was more than a few times richer. The spirit dominion, the Liang Mountain True Dominion, is breaking through to the spirit dominion. The expressions of Shen Yuqing, Lin Shiji, and the others from the spirit dominion changed drastically. The spirit dominion, the Liang Mountain True Dominion, was about to advance to the spirit dominion. In that case, as they thought of something, they looked at Qin Shujian in shock again. The heaven-earth spirit chi had suddenly increased by a few times. The sudden advancement of the true dominion. It was obvious that someone had forcefully broken the shackles of the true dominion and promoted it to the spirit dominion. The person who could do this now, only the sect master could do it. The spirit dominion. The protectorate lord. You have broken the shackles and advanced the true dominion to the spirit dominion. You can name the spirit dominion. A system notification sounded. Qin Shujian did not even think before he said, Liang Mountain. It was a simple word. It spread across all the regions it covered. It also meant, from this moment on, the Liang Mountain True Dominion, the Blue River True Dominion, and the Mystic Void True Dominion would no longer exist. What existed now? Only the Liang Mountain Spirit Dominion. You have successfully broken the shackles and advanced the Liang Mountain True Dominion to the Liang Mountain Spirit Dominion. You have received the blessings of the heavens and earth. You have received the title, Liang Mountain Protectorate Lord, Liang Mountain Protectorate Lord title. While in the Liang Mountain Spirit Dominion, you have received the blessings of the heavens and earth. Your cultivation level has increased by 9 small realms. Liang Mountain Protectorate Lord title. While in the Liang Mountain Spirit Dominion, your attacks will be reduced by 30%. Liang Mountain Protectorate Lord title. While in the Liang Mountain True Dominion, your attacks will be increased by 30%. Liang Mountain Protectorate Lord title. While in the Liang Mountain Spirit Dominion, your cultivation speed will be increased. A series of messages were transmitted. Qin Shujian's aura suddenly skyrocketed. The spirit god that was born became even more powerful in an instant. You already have your own sect. The foundation of the sect has received the blessings of the heavens and earth. Your cultivation level will automatically increase. Rumble. 3,000 feet, 4,000 feet, 5,000 feet, 6,000 feet. In just a few breaths' time, Liang Mountain was already towering into the clouds. Rumble, 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 rumble. Originally, Liang Mountain was very far away from Liang Mountain City. Now, it was less than 5 miles away from Liang Mountain City. Such an unforeseen event. Before the others could recover from the shock of the True Dominion's advancement, they fell into a state of shock once again. Qin Shujian stood in the air. As if he had sensed something, he shouted, Saber. Swish. Tao artifact. Blood of 1,000 mountains. With the blood of 1,000 mountains in his hand, Qin Shujian used his remaining 300 luck points on it. Rumble. 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 Then, rumble. This is the spirit martial realm. Chapter 234. The origin sect is favored by the heavens and the earth, and its luck is flourishing. It has been upgraded to a 5th grade force. 5th grade force. The people of the origin sect, excluding variant humans, have been upgraded by 6 levels, cannot exceed level 5 spiritual martial realm. The influence of the origin sect has been expanded. As the sect master of the origin sect, your realm has been upgraded. The moment he received the system notification, Qin Shujian felt the aura on his body skyrocket. As his spiritual soul expanded, he realized that he no longer needed to rely on the footwork of the Tao initiation realm. He could rely on his divine will to fly. With one step, he was already standing on the city wall of Liangshan City. Below, it was the people of the Origin sect. From today onwards, repair Liangshan. Send a message to all the sects in the Liangshan spiritual region to meet me within 10 days. Yes, sir. In addition, the Liangshan spiritual region has been upgraded. If any forces outside the spiritual region try to take advantage of this opportunity, kill them all. Yes, sir. All the people of the Origin sect bowed respectfully. As for the players, they could only feel envy in their hearts. This was the spiritual martial realm, and all the people above level 5 of the true martial realm had been upgraded to the spiritual martial realm. Such a leap. They would be lying to themselves if they said that they were not envious at all. But so what if they were envious? This was obviously a boost that only NPCs could have. The players could only watch from the sidelines. Subsequently, Qin Shujian used his divine will to fly and headed towards Liangshan. As for the other people of the Origin sect, they started to prepare for other things. At this moment, as the Liangshan spiritual region was upgraded, including the original Liangshan true region, there were a total of 6 true regions and 36 ordinary regions that were affected were forcefully upgraded to the spiritual region level. This was equivalent to saying that the Liangshan spiritual region's territory had expanded by tens or hundreds of times. After all, the original Liangshan true region was only the size of 2 ordinary regions. An old true region like the Mystic Void true region. The size of the region it encompassed was no less than 10 ordinary regions. Other than the Azure Cloud sect, who had been prepared, the other sects were in a state of panic right now. For them, it was not a good thing for their region to upgrade to the spiritual region. Once it was upgraded to the spiritual region, that meant that those at the peak of the martial realm were no longer the top powerhouses, and those at the spiritual martial realm were the top. These sects that had originally relied on the strength of the true martial realm to dominate a region. If they were in spirit realm, his position fell from the top in a single leap. Although it was not to the point of falling into the dust, it could only be considered to be in the lower middle level. If a spirit martial realm cultivator wanted to make a move against them, even if they had the sect guarding spirit weapon in hand, they would not have much power to resist. Such a change. The experts of these sects were all caught off guard. Meanwhile, in the Liang Mountain spirit domain, there were experts appearing at almost every moment in the major cities that had teleportation gates. These were the experts that had appeared. The aura on their bodies was shockingly powerful. Almost all of them were cultivators of the spirit martial realm, the appearance of a spirit realm. It was enough to arouse the greed of various forces. However, after these experts arrived, they did not immediately attack. Instead, they entered a strange period of silence. The true dominion had advanced to the spirit dominion. If it wasn't a natural evolution, it meant that someone had broken through the shackles and become the ruler of spirit realm. He was different from the true dominion protectorate lord. Even a cultivator of the divine martial realm had to be cautious when facing the domain master of spirit realm. After all, someone who could break through the shackles of the true dominion had to have condensed 4 universal heavenly locks. Looking at the people who had become the ruler of spirit realm, as long as they did not die prematurely, they would definitely be experts above the divine martial realm. Such a person, either they could not offend him, or they had to get rid of him once and for all to prevent future troubles. Before testing out the means of the domain master of spirit realm, no sect would be willing to be the first to take the lead and confront the domain master of spirit realm head-on. The spirit realm had just evolved. It would take some time for the news of the domain master to spread. Although some local sects could already guess that the person who had broken through was very likely the sect master of Yuan sect. Before they had concrete evidence, they did not dare jump to conclusions. However, at this time, there were people from local sects and other sects of spirit realm who had sent experts to Yuan Zone to investigate the situation. Meanwhile, Marquis Baiyun, who was in charge of the Baiyun mansion, naturally received the news immediately. The domain master of spirit realm, Marquis Baiyun's expression changed. He could not help but feel slightly shocked when he read the information in his hands. Others might not be sure who had broken the shackles. However, he had forces all over the 3,600 cities in the Baiyun mansion. He even had spies in the former true dominion of Liang Mountain. How could he hide the fact that Qin Shujian had broken the shackles and promoted the true dominion to the spirit realm? After a while, Marquis Baiyun shattered the information in his hands. After his expression changed a few times, he smiled faintly. The domain master of Spirit Realm is not bad. No matter what, he is still a genius of the Baiyun Mansion. Now that the situation is unclear, we need such a talent. He had also heard about the beast tide in the true dominion of Liang Mountain and the appearance of the sky-reaching ape. Since then, Marquis Baiyun had learned that Qin Shujian had condensed 4 universal heavenly locks. Since then, he knew that Qin Shujian would break the shackles of the true dominion and become the domain master of Spirit Realm sooner or later. However, Marquis Baiyun had not expected Qin Shujian had broken the shackles so quickly. It had only been 3 months. Qin Shujian had completed the last step and achieved an achievement that no one had ever achieved in 1,000 years. After the trip to the desolate void ordinary realm, Marquis Baiyun had looked at Qin Shujian in a new light and wanted to nurture him. Regardless of whether Qin Shujian would be useful to him in the future, it might be useful to have a connection with such a potential expert in the future. In the end, Marquis Baiyun was surprised by Qin Shujian's potential. Even with his status, he had to treat a domain master of the spirit realm seriously. This kind of genius, it was almost certain that Qin Shujian would become a heavenly man Xiao Hong, who was sitting below, and the other family generals and consecrators of the Baiyun Mansion all had different expressions on their faces. However, without exception, there was a hint of shock. Obviously, the appearance of a domain master of the spirit realm shocked these cultivators, who were at least at the divine martial realm, especially Xiao Hong. He had met Qin Shujian several times and recognized his potential. However, when he found out that Qin Shujian was a high-grade blacksmith, he did not think that Qin Shujian would have the chance to break the shackles of the true dominion. After all, ultimate experts pursued one Dao wholeheartedly. Qin Shujian was obsessed with cultivation and blacksmithing at the same time. Given his talent and potential, it would not be difficult for him to become an expert in the future. However, it was almost impossible for him to become an ultimate expert who could break the shackles of the true dominion. However, the reality before his eyes was a heavy blow to Xiao Hong. He could not help but believe one thing. Some people could not be guessed using common sense. The appearance of the Liang Mountain Spirit Realm means that the Baiyun Mansion has the 18th Spirit Realm. This is something worth celebrating, Marquis Baiyun said slowly as his gaze landed on Xiao Hong. You have the most contact with Qin Shujian. You represent the Baiyun Mansion and send him a congratulatory gift. This is also a congratulatory gift from the Imperial Court. Yes, Marquis Baiyun. Xiao Hong stood up and accepted the order before sitting down again. Li Guang'an said, now that the Liang Mountain Spirit Realm has been upgraded, I'm afraid that the sects of the other spirit realms and even the Great Dominion will have their eyes on it. I believe that these forces will have a conflict with the Origin sect. We'll leave the matters of the cultivation world to the cultivation world. Marquis Baiyun shook his head slightly and paused for a while before saying, if it's too much, we can help solve the Origin sect's predicament. Upon hearing this, everyone else was silent. The Imperial Court rarely interfered with the matters of the cultivation world. Just like what Marquis Baiyun had said, this had already proved that he valued the Origin sect. In the Liang Mountain Spirit Realm, due to the presence of the Liang Mountain Protectorate Lord, many sects did not immediately take action on this spirit realm. Instead, they would make other arrangements after finding out the situation. However, the sect's cultivators did not take action, but it did not mean that everyone could tolerate it. Boom! A terrifying fluctuation spread, and the mountain gate of the Heaven Saber sect shattered. Who dares to cause trouble at the Heaven Saber sect? The sudden change immediately attracted the attention of the Heaven Saber sect disciples. Suddenly, many disciples appeared and shouted sternly when they saw a tall and thin middle-aged man with a slightly withered face in front of them. Hand over your sect-guarding spirit weapon, or I'll level your sect. How dare you? How dare you be so presumptuous in front of the Heaven Saber sect? The middle-aged man's words completely enraged the people of the Heaven Saber sect. At this moment, The elder of the Heaven Saber sect also heard the commotion and came over. When he saw the broken mountain gate tablet, there was an obvious flash of anger in the elder's eyes. However, when he saw the middle-aged man, his expression changed slightly. He then cupped his hands and said, "The Heaven Saber sect has nothing to do with you. Why did you destroy our mountain gate?" "Elder, he wants to take our sect-guarding spirit weapon," a Heaven Saber sect disciple said. As soon as he finished speaking, the scene suddenly fell silent. The elder of the Heaven Saber sect looked gloomy, and his eyes turned cold as he looked at the middle-aged man. Take the sect-guarding spirit weapon. It had been hundreds of years since the Heaven Saber sect was established. No one had ever dared to be so presumptuous. However, before the elder of the Heaven Saber sect could say anything, the middle-aged man sneered. Then, without any movement, a terrifying aura erupted from his body. Then, the elder of the Heaven Saber sect did not even have time to react before he was sent flying with a scream. After landing on the ground, he was still coughing up blood. Spiritual martial realm cultivators attack. Enduring the splitting pain in his head, the elder of the Heaven Saber sect looked at the middle-aged man as if he had seen something terrifying. Only a spiritual martial realm cultivator could stand still and severely injure a physical invulnerability realm cultivator. Thinking of the terrifying divine thought attack just now, the elder felt a chill in his heart. As for the other people of the Heaven Saber sect, their expressions changed drastically at this moment. Chapter 235. The Spiritual Martial Realm. The disciples of the Heaven Saber sect had only heard of this realm but had never seen it before, especially when they saw their physical invulnerability realm elder. He was sent flying and coughing up blood before he even had the chance to attack. Such strength. It was enough to shock them. Just as the middle-aged man was about to attack again, he suddenly exclaimed, "Spiritual martial realm?" Boom. Before he could think too much, a saber energy came from afar and slashed at his head. Seeing this, the middle-aged man's shocked and doubtful expression instantly turned cold. He released his energy and turned it into a huge palm energy that collided with the saber energy. Bang! The two collided, and a strong wind spread. The saber energy shattered at the same time. A streak of cold light burst out from it and instantly tore the palm apart. The middle-aged man's heart skipped a beat, and he instinctively retreated quickly. At the same time, a saber mark started from where he was standing and spread out for more than 3 meters before it stopped. Sect Master. Seeing the newcomer, the people of the Heaven Saber sect felt a little relieved. Gue Haichuan ignored them and looked at the middle-aged man. He said in a deep voice, "A spiritual martial realm cultivator must be famous. May I know who you are?" "The Liang Mountain Spirit Domain has just been promoted. I didn't expect someone to break through to the spiritual martial realm. What a surprise." Zhang Kun's expression was solemn as he stared at Gue Haichuan. He didn't expect it either. A sect that had just been promoted to the spirit domain had someone who had reached the spiritual martial realm. Although this kind of newly promoted spiritual martial realm was much weaker than a veteran spiritual martial realm cultivator like him. However, Zhang Kun looked at the saber in Gue Haichuan's hand and wanted to retreat. A cultivator at the first level of the spiritual martial realm was not scary. What was scary was that such a cultivator had a powerful spiritual weapon to help him. With the combination of the two, his strength was comparable to the second or even third level of the spiritual martial realm. So, Zhang Kun retreated in the end. With Gue Haichuan here, he couldn't take the Heaven Saber sect's spiritual weapon. If he attacked by force, although he didn't think Gue Haichuan would be a match for him, there was a high chance that both of them would be injured. To this, Gue Haichuan did not stop him either. In the end, he had just broken through to the spirit martial realm and had not even stabilized his realm. He only dared to confront Zhang Kun because of his spiritual weapon. If they really wanted to fight, he wasn't sure either. Now that Mount Liang's spirit realm had just been promoted, the situation was not completely stable yet. As the only spirit martial realm cultivator in the Heaven Saber sect, Gue Haichuan had to ensure that he was in peak condition at all times. Only then would he not put the sect in danger, especially after what had just happened. He wanted him to understand what kind of situation the sects of the Liang Mountain spirit realm were in. Take elderly away to treat his injuries. Also, from today onwards, the disciples of the Heaven Saber sect are not allowed to leave the mountain as they please. Those who violate the sect rules will be punished. Yes, sir. The remaining Heaven Saber sect disciples replied respectfully. After understanding that their sect master was also a spirit martial realm cultivator, these people's hearts were also greatly relieved. The Heaven Saber sect had Gue Haichuan, a cultivator who had broken through to the spirit martial realm at the last minute. However, the other sects did not. For cultivators of the spirit martial realm, a sect guarding spiritual artifact was extremely tempting, because it could become a sect guarding spiritual artifact. Basically, it was an innate spiritual artifact that could carry the sect's luck. Such a fey was a completely different concept compared to a normal artifact that was forged by humans. The former had the possibility of growth. The latter was basically fixed. If one wanted to break the shackles, it would cost a lot. In terms of value, a sect-guarding spiritual artifact was much more valuable than other spiritual artifacts. In the spirit realm, not all sects had a sect-guarding spiritual artifact. Even if some sects without a spirit martial realm cultivator had a sect-guarding spiritual artifact, they were basically related to some of the major sects of the spirit realm. For this, very few spirit martial realm cultivators would attack these sections. Because of carelessness, they might provoke the experts of the major sects of the spirit realm to suppress them. Therefore, when Mount Liang True Dominion was promoted to the spirit realm, some independent cultivators had their eyes on the sects here. The spirit realm had just been promoted. There were no spirit martial realm cultivators in the sect. Such an existence. It was like a child holding a piece of gold in his hand and walking openly in a busy city. It was difficult not to attract attention. Boom! Qingsu staggered back. The spiritual artifact in his hand was flickering. His white beard was already stained with traces of blood. In front of him, there were two spirit martial realm cultivators. As for the surroundings, many Blue Cloud sect disciples had already fallen to the ground. There were even two physical invulnerability realm elders. Hand over the sect-guarding spiritual artifact, and I'll spare your life. Why are you talking so much nonsense with him? Just kill him. The two spirit martial realm cultivators didn't take Qingsu seriously. If he didn't have a spiritual artifact in his hand, how could a cultivator at the peak of the true martial realm contend against them? If the basic martial realm and true martial realm had a huge gap, then the gap between true martial realm and spirit martial realm was even bigger. The spirit god was nurtured. Even a physical invulnerability realm cultivator couldn't completely block a spiritual attack. Qingsu didn't speak. He felt a little sad. The current situation, he had already expected it. Otherwise, he wouldn't have gone to Yuanzhong to seek protection. However, now that Qin Shujian had just reached the spirit martial realm, Yuanzhong, as the biggest beneficiary of the Liang Mountain spiritual realm's advancement, was probably still in a state of rest. His Blue Cloud sect was in trouble. They might not be able to help him in time. Qingsu took a deep breath and used his true yuan to suppress the injuries in his body. He shouted in a deep voice, "You guys run for your lives. I'll stay here alone to stop them." Master. The Blue Cloud sect disciples looked sad. As for the players, most of them had already escaped. Most of the players didn't have a sense of belonging to the sects in the game. Compared to dropping levels to die, it was better to avoid the danger. Without the Blue Cloud sect, there would be Blue Cloud sect and Red Cloud sect. At worst, they could take this opportunity to sneak into Yuanzhong. After saying that, Qingsu's true yuan surged. The spiritual artifact in his hand fluttered without wind. A powerful aura rose. Seeing this, the faces of the two spirit martial realm cultivators turned serious. They didn't take Qingsu seriously. However, they couldn't ignore this sect-guarding treasure that was comparable to an upper-grade spiritual artifact. Just as they were about to make a move, boom! A cold light instantly pierced through the void. One of the spirit martial realm cultivators didn't even have time to turn around before his entire body exploded. Blood splattered all over the ground. What a sudden change. Everyone at the scene was horrified, especially the other spirit martial realm cultivator. The shock in his heart was greater than anyone else's. Just now, he only felt an impending danger. However, before he could come back to his senses, a spirit martial realm cultivator died just like that. He died so quickly, and so directly. The spirit martial realm cultivator was shocked. Ching Su was pleasantly surprised. Only the light at the end of the tunnel could describe his current mood. In the distance, a person holding a longbow came directly to the Blue Cloud sect's mountain gate. The seemingly broken gate and the corpses on the ground. His eyes turned cold. He said in a deep voice, "Under the orders of the sect master, no one is allowed to attack the local sects of the Liang Mountain spiritual realm. Those who violate this will be killed without mercy." "Greetings, Elder Zhang." At this moment, Ching Su stepped forward and cupped his hands. As for Zhang Ergu, Ching Su knew him. After all, he was one of the elders of the Yuan sect. However, Ching Su didn't expect that. He didn't know when this outer sect elder of the Yuan sect had become so powerful. Even Ching Su couldn't see through him. Then, he saw the longbow in his hand. A Dao seal could be vaguely seen on it. His expression changed slightly. A Dao artifact. A second Dao artifact. As for the other side, the spirit martial realm cultivator's expression stiffened after Zhang Ergu appeared. With his eyesight, he could see that the person in front of him was also in the spirit martial realm like him. However, if that was all, it wasn't enough to shock him. However, when his gaze fell on the Chinquan bow in Zhang Ergu's hand, his heart trembled. Then, he swallowed hard. Then, he cupped his hands and said, "I'm Du Feng. May I know your name?" "Yuan sect Zhang Ergu." Zhang Ergu. Hearing this name, Du Feng almost choked. If it weren't for the fact that the other party's expression didn't seem to be fake, he would have thought that he was teasing him. After taking a deep breath, Du Feng said in a deep voice, "I've never been an enemy of the Yuan sect. I just have some grievances with the Blue Cloud sect. Why do you have to intervene?" While speaking, he always paid attention to his tone and didn't dare to anger the other party. With a Dao artifact in hand, he learned from his companion's mistake. Du Feng was also very weak in his heart. However, the temptation of the Blue Cloud sect's spiritual artifact was too great. He was unwilling to give it up. He could only think of a way to persuade Zhang Ergu to leave and get the spiritual artifact. As for the dead spirit martial realm, Du Feng had to thank Zhang Ergu. In this way, he wouldn't have to share the spiritual artifact with the other party. Hearing this, Zhang Ergu glanced sideways at the Blue Cloud sect master. Ching Su said in a deep voice, "If the spiritual artifact exists, the Blue Cloud sect exists. If it doesn't exist, the Blue Cloud sect will not exist." Seeing this, Zhang Ergu retracted his gaze and looked at Du Feng with a smile. "My Yuan sect will protect the Blue Cloud sect for 20 years. Please go back." "In that case, I'll take my leave." Du Feng didn't dare to argue. Since the other party's words were resolute, he had to take a step back. As for the spiritual artifact, he could only wait until the future to plan. Just as Du Feng turned around, a terrifying threat instantly surged into his heart. Before he turned around to look back, the protective aura that he had just instinctively propped up was broken. The next moment, the attack hit him. Suddenly, like the previous spirit martial realm cultivator, his whole body directly exploded. At this time, Zhang Ergu slowly lowered the hand holding the Chinquan bow, shook his head and said to himself, "If I let you go now, what if you go back and destroy the Blue Cloud sect? The sect master's task can't be messed up." Chapter 236. Some true Dominion sects managed to keep their sect-guarding spirit weapons. Some true Dominion sects were completely annihilated. In just one day, the entire Liang Mountain Spirit Protectorate was in chaos. Boom. Terrifying attacks were unleashed. Dozens of people were fighting. Every attack caused the air to explode. Under the attack of the spirit deity, the surroundings had turned into a dangerous place that ordinary people could not approach. "Who are you people?" Deng Chenjiang was shocked and angry. The long whip in his hand danced like a silver snake as he dealt with the attacks of the surrounding people. Until now, he did not understand what was going on. He had just annihilated a sect called the Wanhua sect and seized their sect-guarding spirit weapon. However, before he could go far, he was surrounded by dozens of spirit martial realm cultivators. Although they were all cultivators at the first level of the spirit martial realm, there were too many of them. Plus, he was only at the third level of the spirit martial realm. If he did not have the support of the spirit weapon in his hand, at this moment, he would have been attacked by the terrifying spirit deity and his soul would have been destroyed. However, even if he had the support of the spirit weapon, it was only a matter of time before he was defeated. Deng Qinjiang did not understand how he had offended so many experts. Logically speaking, he had been walking in the cultivation world all these years and had not offended any of the Spirit Protectorate's large sections. Or else, so many years had passed and he would not still be free and unfettered. Kill. Fu Gang's expression was indifferent. However, the attacks in his hands did not stop. He was not as strong as the person in front of him. However, there were too many people around him. A cultivator at the third level of the spirit martial realm could not cause much trouble. After more than 10 minutes, under the powerful attack of the spirit deity, Deng Qinjiang's body suddenly shook violently. Then, blood flowed out of his 7 orifices. His head was in pain, and the quintessential essence that he had just summoned dissipated. Immediately, numerous attacks bombarded his body. His flesh was torn apart, and he was sent flying while coughing blood. When he landed, he was already on the verge of death. He struggled for a few seconds before he breathed his last. Fu Gang walked forward and bent down to take the spirit weapon from the other party's hand. Then, he searched the other party's body and found all the valuable items. Soon, he took them and left. Everyone had just left for 1 or 2 minutes. Suddenly, other people appeared from the dark. After all, the battle of the spirit martial realm was not small. Especially now that the situation was a bit delicate, it was even more eye-catching. I didn't think that Deng Qinjiang would die in this newly promoted spirit realm. Who is that person from? Why does he look so unfamiliar? Seeing Deng Qinjiang die with his eyes wide open, one of them was also shocked. Deng Qinjiang's strength was not considered very powerful, but in the end, he was still a spirit martial realm cultivator. In spirit realm, almost every cultivator in the spirit martial realm was a famous expert. But just like just now, more than a dozen spiritual martial realm warriors were all unfamiliar faces. Such a thing was indeed a little strange. Could it be a native force of the Cold Mountain spirit realm? Someone asked. After saying this, everyone else looked at him in a daze. Although they didn't look at him like he was an idiot, he was close to it. It has only been a day since the Liang Mountain spiritual region advanced. It is already rare for 1 or 2 peak genuine martial force cultivators to break through. It is not likely that they are spiritual martial force cultivators. Looks like I'll have to investigate which sect this cultivator in disguise is from. The others secretly calculated in their hearts. Then, they looked at each other and turned to leave. In the same place, not long after, Deng Qinjiang's corpse gradually disappeared from the place. Similar to this scene, it happened in almost every place in the Liang Mountain spirit realm. Facing the attack of a newly advanced spirit realm, some sects that knew that the spirit realm's master could not be underestimated would have a cautious attitude. However, there were many sects in a spirit realm. The number of experts was even more immeasurable. There were always some people. After the spirit realm advanced, they coveted everything in the newly advanced spirit realm and attacked. As for the sects in the Liang Mountain spirit realm, even if there were peak genuine martial force cultivators, but to give birth to a spiritual martial force cultivator in just 1 day, it was needless to say how difficult it was. Therefore, when these spiritual martial force cultivators attacked the Liang Mountain spirit realm, the spiritual martial force cultivators of the Yuan sect also traveled across the entire spirit realm and attacked any spiritual martial force cultivators in the Liang Mountain spirit realm. When it came to a single realm, the spiritual martial force cultivators of the Yuan sect were not very strong. Most of them were at the first level of the spiritual martial force. Only a group of elders could reach the third or fourth level. However, the Yuan sect had a lot of people. This time, at least 1,500 spiritual martial force cultivators were born in the rank 5 force. Such a huge force. It was enough to make everyone look askance. The long sword pierced through the air. The sword intent made people feel cold. A spiritual martial force cultivator immediately retreated. At the same time, he slashed with the long sword in his hand. In an instant, his earth energy surged violently in an attempt to completely block the sword. Tess Sword Edge's expression was calm. He moved his feet. The 3-foot-long sword in his hand was like a stroke of God. Every sword attack happened to hit the opponent's weak point. It broke through the opponent's defense and left wounds on his body. With the advancement of the Yuan sect, he also broke through from the 7th level of the spiritual martial force to the 3rd level of the spiritual martial force. After being in the Yuan sect for so long, Tess Sword Edge had already cultivated the sword intent. Now that he had broken through to the spiritual martial force, his sword intent had become even more terrifying with the help of the spirit god. Originally, he had only cultivated a low-grade truth rank sword technique. But now, this sword technique was in his hands. It had already broken through the original barrier and reached another mysterious level. Even when facing a cultivator at the 3rd level of the spiritual martial force, Tess Sword Edge had the absolute upper hand. Why do you have to be so aggressive? If you really want to fight to the death, it won't be good for either of us. You dare to mess up the Liang Mountain spiritual region. You deserve to die. Tess Sword Edge's calm words came out. The 3-foot-long sword in his hand was like the flowing light of the god of death. It directly pierced toward the opponent's throat. It seemed to be a slow sword. In fact, it was extremely fast. The spiritual martial force cultivator couldn't help but turn pale with fright. A dense light rose from the armor on his body, blocking the sword. However, in less than a breath's time, the light shattered with a loud bang. The long sword continued to slash forward. However, he also took advantage of this small obstruction. The spiritual martial force cultivator directly seized the opportunity to open up the distance between himself and Tess Sword Edge. Then, without thinking, he turned around to escape. It didn't make sense. He couldn't beat him. If he didn't escape now and continued to fight in the same place, he would most likely be defeated and killed. It was just that he wanted to leave. But Tess Sword Edge didn't intend to let him go. When the spirit god exploded, the sword intent almost appeared. The cold chill instantly made the spiritual martial force cultivator's heart turn cold. Even his movements were slightly sluggish. Then, he saw the sword light fly over. The next second, his chest felt a sharp pain. So you've been using me to practice your sword. The spiritual martial force cultivator clutched his chest and staggered back. In the end, he fell to the ground. Blood kept flowing out of his mouth. He looked at Tess Sword Edge with eyes full of fear. His opponent's strength. It was far beyond his expectations. Previously, he didn't use his true strength. Only when he was about to escape did he make a fatal move. On the other side, the long sword returned to its sheath. Tess Jianfeng walked up to the cultivator and bent down. He searched the cultivator's body and took away all the valuable items. This scene, it made the cultivator feel ashamed and angry. He spat out a large mouthful of blood. In the end, he couldn't hold on and died. To this, Tess Jianfeng's face remained calm from the beginning to the end. The third one, looking at the corpse on the ground, he muttered. There was a glimmer of light in his eyes. Soon, he left the place. According to Qin Shujian's order, it was to kill all the people who reached into the Liang Mountain spirit domain and tried to plunder it. So Tess Sword Edge took action. Basically, he picked those spiritual martial force cultivators who had injured or killed people. As for the cultivators from other regions who were attracted by the promotion of the spirit domain, as long as they didn't casually attack, then he would turn a blind eye. After all, if he killed randomly, Yuanzhong would make too many enemies. It wouldn't be good for the future. More importantly, now that Yuanzhong had just been promoted, everything needed to be stable. There couldn't be too big of a change. Soon, what happened in the Liang Mountain spirit domain was directly transmitted to the ears of the major forces. It immediately caused a lot of commotion. After all, so many unfamiliar spiritual martial force cultivators appeared and so many spiritual martial force cultivators died in a short period of time. It was hard not to attract attention. More importantly, after investigating, they found that these spiritual martial force cultivators seemed to be from the same force. Soon, these sects expanded their manpower in an attempt to find out which faction was supporting these people behind the scenes. Not long later, these sects and forces had investigated everything thoroughly. Actually, this wasn't a difficult thing. After all, Yuanzhong was in the Liang Mountain spirit domain. There were very few people who didn't know about it. As for Yuanzhong's clothing, it was well known by all the forces. The reason why this happened, it was also because these forces were worried that there would be people who didn't open their eyes and offended Yuanzhong for no reason. In the end, it would lead to a disaster. When they found out that Yuanzhong had 1,500 inner energy cultivators, combined with the large number of spiritual martial force cultivators that appeared, many forces had the same guess in their minds. Promotion of force. According to the information they received, Yuanzhong was originally a 4th-grade force. If it was promoted again, it would be a 5th-grade force. In the spirit domain, a 5th-grade force was almost unique. Similarly, after they found out that Yuanzhong might be promoted, it caused a huge commotion. A 5th-grade force. All the cultivators in the sect increased by 6 minor realms. What did this mean? Combined with the current situation, Yuanzhong might have more than 1,500 spiritual martial force cultivators. More than 1,500 spiritual martial force cultivators. Even if all of them had just entered the spiritual god realm, this was terrifying enough. One had to know that it wasn't easy for a large sect in the spirit domain to have 100 spiritual martial force cultivators, let alone 1,500 spiritual martial force cultivators. That was definitely a terrifying strength. Immediately, in the hearts of all the sects, the danger level of the Liang Mountain spirit domain rose sharply. There were so many spiritual martial force cultivators. It was enough to let Yuanzhong become one of the largest sects in the spirit domain. If any sect wanted to interfere with the Liang Mountain spirit domain, then they would have to consider whether they had the qualifications to fight against so many spiritual martial force cultivators. Because if they weren't careful, perhaps this would be the result of destroying the sect. Chapter 237. The promotion of the Liang Mountain spirit domain. The commotion it caused was not just limited to the Baiyun prefecture. Even other prefectures received the news. As for the players, naturally, they were no exception. Compared to the previous commotion, this time, Qin Shujian had broken through to the spirit martial realm. Although the video of the True Dominion upgrading to the spirit domain was shocking, the effect it had on the players was not as great as before. Some things were too shocking. Furthermore, it was caused by one person frequently. Over time, they slowly got used to it. In the hearts of many players, perhaps the Liang Mountain Stockade Master should be so awesome. However, it wasn't like there was no movement at all. As a player of a small sect in the True Dominion, I would like to ask the players of the Liang Mountain Spirit Domain if you kill monsters and gain experience. Do you feel good leveling up? A post was posted on the forum. As for the comments below, it was a group of players' replies. First comment. Yes, the monsters of the spirit domain are enthusiastic and experience is abundant. The leveling up is also very fast. We welcome all players to come. Second comment. I was out for half a day today, but I only leveled up twice. I feel very happy. Third comment. Fourth comment. The spirit domain is the player's heaven. The True Dominion is nothing. There is still a place for the sect. Is there anyone who wants to come? Below the post, all the comments were positive. However, bang, the white light dissipated. Is there a mistake? Why did the spirit martial realm monster appear so quickly? I dropped a level. F***CK. The three players cursed. Ever since the Liang Mountain spirit domain, the heaven and earth spirit chi had become denser. Even the self-cultivation speed was faster than before. This was naturally a good thing for the players. However, when the players went to the endless mountain range to kill monsters as usual, they discovered a problem. That was the monsters of the true martial realm in the past. Now, they had reached the spirit martial realm. A large number of true martial realm monsters mixed with a small number of spirit martial realm monsters. Any player who encountered these monsters, almost all of them could not withstand a single attack before they were teleported back to the resurrection point. As a result, the drawbacks of the upgrading of the spirit domain were revealed. In the Liang Mountain Spirit Domain, the strongest player at the current stage had just reached the inner energy realm. He had not even touched the physical energy realm, let alone the spirit martial realm. With such strength, entering the endless mountain range alone was almost certain death, even if they entered as a team. Once they encountered a monster in the spirit martial realm, there was a high probability that they would be wiped out. In this way, the players were in an awkward situation. In the courtyard, ever since he had broken through to the spirit martial realm, Qin Shujian had been sitting here, quietly familiarizing himself with the power of his body and absorbing the things he had gained from this breakthrough. Name: Qin Shujian. Title: Liangshan Region Leader. Identity: Sect Master of Yuan Sect. Affiliation: Yuan Sect. Faction Level: Level 5 Realm, LV10 Spiritual Martial Realm, inside the true domain of Liang Mountain, Realm +9. Inside the Yuan Sect, Realm +5, Cultivation Technique. 21st layer of the Gue Yuan Ancestral Canon, plus, Level 32 Life Extension, Level 1 Immortal King Body, Level 1 Ming King Hellfire, Level 1 Divine Will, Level 1 Spiritual God, Middle Grade Spiritual Rank, Martial Arts, Black Tiger. Saber Technique, Entering Tao, 5 Elements 8 Trigram Steps, Entering Tao, 7 Leaves Piercing Flower Palm, Entering Tao, Ming King Prison Breaking Saber, Entering Tao, Great Wilderness Demon Suppression Seal, plus, Perfection, Middle Grade Divine Rank, Special Martial Arts, Celestial Light Alchemy Book, Low Grade Alchemy Master, plus, Forging Ancestral Canon, Forging Master, Special Ability, Spiritual Eye, Saber Intent, 20%, Life Source, 59865532 Luck Value. 0. These were his current attributes. For an unknown cultivation technique, Qin Shujian was too lazy to change its name too much. He directly named it the Gue Yuan Ancestral Canon. As for the attributes of this cultivation technique, it had completely changed. After fusing the characteristics of the 7 cultivation techniques, no matter how one looked at it, it had already reached an extremely powerful level. But there was one thing. It was what Qin Shujian paid the most attention to. That was the attribute of prolonging one's life. This attribute had been closely following him ever since he had obtained the Eternal Spring technique. Even after fusing 2 cultivation techniques, the other attributes had changed greatly. This attribute, but it still remained. Qin Shujian had no idea how much lifespan could be increased by the life extension technique. According to normal circumstances, the lifespan of a cultivator in the spirit martial realm would be around 500 to 1,000 years. It could be said that, once one's cultivation broke through to this level, for ordinary people, this was already close to a different kind of longevity. Even for cultivators, a lifespan of 500 to 1,000 years was not an exaggeration to say that the sea had turned into mulberry fields. However, in Qin Shujian's perception, he could only sense that his lifespan was vast. As for where the end was, he did not dare to jump to a conclusion. Rumor has it that the emperors in my previous life were all pursuing immortality. Now I have reached this level. Even if I can only live for 1,000 years, it is enough to experience the rise and fall of the dynasty. Qin Shujian secretly sighed. The spirit martial realm was already like this. The lifespan of the spirit martial realm was at least 1,000 years. However, for cultivators at this level, he was not too sure how long they could live. After all, with Yuan Zong's previous methods, at most, he could only come into contact with the first level of the spirit martial realm. But he was sure of one thing. Their lifespan would definitely be more than 1,000 years, not less than 1,000 years. Not to mention anything else. Since the Emperor of the Great Zhao established the world, it had been no less than a few thousand years. Now, he was still in power. Looking at the life extension technique, Qin Shujian could not help but guess, perhaps one day, I can really aspire for longevity. Even if I can't really live forever, it is enough to live for 10,000 or a few thousand years. Thoughts were spinning in his mind. He quickly shook them off and refocused his attention on himself. After breaking through to the spirit martial realm, Yuan Zong was promoted to a 5th-level force. As the sect master, it was also the first time he enjoyed the increase in realm after the promotion of the sect. However, Qin Shujian found that this was of no use, because it was true that his realm had increased. But his main cultivation method was still at the 1st level of the spirit martial technique. Unless he slowly cultivated, only then could he be counted as a cultivator at the 5th level of the spirit martial realm. But for himself, it was obviously impossible to slowly cultivate. So, no matter what, he still needed to use his life source to directly increase his realm. In this case, when the sect was promoted, it was better to directly convert his life source. It was a small loss. Qin Shujian did not care too much. What he needed to do now was to increase his strength first. Otherwise, if an expert came to Yuan Zong, he might not be a match for him without the help of a Taoist artifact. With a thought, 100,000 life source was consumed. The Guiyuan ancestral canon twisted and changed from the 21st level to the 22nd level. At the same time, his body was strengthened in all aspects, but there was no change in his divine sense. According to Qin Shujian's estimation, this should be because his divine sense had already reached the 5th level of the spirit martial realm. So, the upgrade of the Guiyuan ancestral canon, it was just to make up for the gap in his cultivation method. It did not cause much change to the divine sense of the spirit martial realm. It only consumed 100,000 life source to increase 1 level. It seems that nearly 6 million life source should be able to directly deduce the Guiyuan ancestral canon to the peak of the spirit martial realm. Looking at the consumption of life source, Qin Shujian's heart settled. Then, with another thought, the life source was constantly consumed. The Guiyuan ancestral canon was also constantly being improved. But when it reached the 5th level of the spirit martial technique, he stopped. It was not because of anything else. It was simply because the life source was not enough. Looking at the remaining 1 million life source and the plus sign that no longer appeared behind the Guiyuan ancestral canon, Qin Shujian's face suddenly darkened. He originally thought that 6 million life source could directly deduce the cultivation method to the perfection stage. In the end, it was only half of it, and it was not enough. One had to know. 6 million life source had been accumulated by him for a few months. Looking at the remaining 1 million life source, Qin Shujian sighed. It is not easy to directly raise to the peak of the spirit martial realm. 6 million life source only raised to the 5th level. He already had a premonition. If he wanted to deduce to the perfection stage of the spirit martial technique, he was afraid that the life source he needed was not something that could be solved by a simple 7-digit number. Next, he looked at his attributes again. Qin Shujian's idea moved. The Great Desolate Devil-Suppressing Seal, which was originally a pure furnace fire, was now directly raised to the peak of perfection after consuming 1 million life source. Everything about the Great Desolate Devil-Suppressing Seal. It kept replaying in his mind. At this moment, Qin Shujian seemed to have transformed into the person who created this martial art. He had transformed into a powerful existence that suppressed all enemies with a raise of his hand. After a long time, everything about the Great Desolate Devil-Suppressing Seal was digested by him. This was a mid-grade divine-level martial art. It had been completely digested. Apart from the difference in realm between him and the founder, his understanding of this martial art was no weaker than the founder of this martial art. Subsequently, Qin Shujian used the remaining life source on the Celestial Light Alchemy Tome. Immediately, there were only 300,000 life source left. As a reward, the Celestial Light Alchemy Tome was directly raised to the level of a high-grade alchemist. At the same time, everything about a high-grade alchemist was released bit by bit from the memories that were sealed in the depths of his mind. It seemed like a moment had passed. It also seemed like a long time had passed. When Qin Shujian came back to his senses, he found that he had already grasped everything about a high-grade alchemist and had directly become a peak existence at this level. Next, he seriously looked at his own attributes a few more times. After confirming that there was no possibility of improvement, he finally gave up the idea of looking at the attribute panel. Then he silently checked the changes in his body. Until now, Qin Shujian could be considered a true cultivator at the 5th level of the spirit martial realm. Chapter 238. Level 25 of the Guiyuan Ancestral Canon, Mid-Spiritual, Level 40 of Life Extension, Level 5 of Immortal King Body, Level 5 of King Ming Hellfire, Level 5 of God's Will, Level 5 of Spiritual God. These were the current attributes of the Guiyuan Ancestral Canon. Qin Shujian's palm didn't move at all, but a fire lotus bloomed in it. The flame didn't emit any heat, but it seemed to be able to burn everything. King Ming Hellfire. This was the fire that was born when the vital essence in his dantian was piled up to the extreme. Then, as the technique leveled up, it evolved into the King Ming Hellfire. Perhaps as the owner of the King Ming Hellfire, Qin Shujian couldn't exactly feel how strong this ability was, but it was definitely not weak. As for the so-called God's Will, he still didn't understand what it was. It was only a level 5 spiritual god. It represented the ability of the 5th level of the spiritual martial realm. Or rather, when his sect was leveled up, he had already reached the level of a level 5 spiritual god. But because the technique hadn't been deduced, this characteristic wasn't completely revealed. Now, with the improvement of the Guiyuan Ancestral Canon, it was perfected. It was only then that the 5th level spiritual god was fully revealed. Level 5 spiritual god. Qin Shujian secretly moved his mind. His body seemed to be lifted up, and he directly reached the point of flying. This wasn't a technique that relied on footwork to enter the Tao. It relied on the powerful spiritual god. It allowed him to reach the true level of flying. This was also a characteristic that cultivators of the spiritual martial realm had after reaching a certain level. The 1st level, spiritual god. The 2nd level, flying. Qin Shujian was currently in the 2nd level of the spiritual martial realm. In the entire Yuan sect, excluding him, there were a total of 2 people who had reached the level of flying. One was Zheng Fong. The other was Zhang Tiniu. Both of them were originally cultivators of the 8th level of the spiritual martial realm. After the Yuan sect leveled up, they directly reached the 4th level of the spiritual martial realm. After leaving the courtyard, Qin Shujian walked on Mount Liang. Compared to before, it was more than 200 feet tall. The mountain peak now was more than 900 feet tall. It could be said to be truly towering into the clouds, making people daunted. Accordingly, Mount Liang changed. It also caused most of the buildings in the Yuan sect to collapse because of the shaking. Fortunately, apart from the collapse of the building, there was no other damage. As for Yuan Zong's treasury, there was no problem at all. While the treasury was being built, Qin Shujian had already considered the possibility that Liang Mountain might change in the future. As expected, after the true domain of Mount Liang had been promoted to the spirit domain, the entire Liang Mountain had undergone earth-shaking changes. Furthermore, the heaven-earth spirit chi of the entire spirit domain had become several times richer than it had been in the true dominion after it had advanced to the spirit domain. Liang Mountain was the core of the Liang Mountain spirit domain. The spiritual energy in his body rose in a straight line. According to Qin Shujian's estimation, the concentration of spiritual energy was at least 5 times denser than before the advancement. 5 times the concentration of spiritual energy. Although it didn't directly say that 1 day of cultivation was equivalent to 5 days of cultivation for others, one's cultivation speed would indeed be faster than before. Any sect must have a blessed land with rich spirit chi. Only by using this as a foundation can the sect's legacy be passed down endlessly, and the younger generation of experts emerge one after another. Qin Shujian was in a good mood as he observed the changes in his surroundings. As the spirit chi became denser, on Liang Mountain, it was like spring all year round. After coming to this world for so long, he actually rarely paid attention to the changes in seasons. This was because as his cultivation deepened, cultivators would no longer be afraid of cold and heat. It was easy to ignore the changes in climate. However, standing on Liang Mountain, looking at the area in the distance, the withered yellow leaves drifting down, and comparing it with the environment under his feet, it was easy to notice the difference. Sect Master. Seeing Qin Shujian, Su Yuanming was stunned for a moment. However, he quickly reacted. How are the losses of our sect? The losses aren't great. Based on rough estimates, it shouldn't exceed 200,000 taels. Okay. Qin Shujian nodded. For the current Yuan sect, 200,000 taels wasn't a great loss. Including the players, there were already more than 10,000 people in the sect. The monthly consumption was more than 100,000 taels. After asking about the losses, Qin Shujian continued, if we were to rebuild the Yuan sect now, how long would it take to complete it? I have already contacted the carrier trading company. The corresponding materials will be sent over in 5 days. If we want to repair it to its original state, it will take about half a month. Half a month? That's right. Su Yuanming nodded and said, now that Liang Mountain is many times larger than before, many places have to be demolished and rebuilt. Half a month is the fastest we can do. Compared to the first time they rebuilt the sect, this time, they could do it so quickly because of the reputation of the Spirit Protectorate Lord. If the true Protectorate Lord was worthy of the carrier trading company's friendship, then the Spirit Protectorate Lord, even the entire carrier trading company would pay attention to him. He had a high chance of becoming an expert above the divine martial realm in the future. No power would be unwilling to befriend him. Therefore, when Su Yuanming sent a message, Gu Feng immediately contacted the upper management of the trading company to make all kinds of preparations. At that moment, Zheng Feng came. Eldest Elder. Su Yuanming cupped his fists slightly. Elder Su. Zheng Feng smiled in response. Then, he looked at Qin Shujian and said seriously, Sect Master, people from various sects have come in hopes of meeting you. How do you respond to this? Which sects are they from? There are sects from the Liang Mountain Spirit Protectorate and sects from outside the Spirit Protectorate. Now that the Yuan sect is undergoing renovation, it is not convenient to meet guests. The sects from outside the Liang Mountain Spirit Protectorate have all been rejected. As for the sects from the Spirit Protectorate, let them go back first and come back in 7 days. Qin Shujian shook his head and said, everyone knew why the sects from outside the Spirit Protectorate had come. As for the sects from the Spirit Protectorate, they could guess. However, he was not prepared to meet them so soon. On the other side, after Zheng Feng received Qin Shujian's instructions, he directly passed them on. Regarding this, the people from these sects did not dare to say anything. If the Spirit Protectorate Lord did not want to meet them, no one could force him to meet them. Then, I will take my leave first, Qi Yunshu said and left with a worried look on her face. Although Qin Shujian said that they would meet again in 7 days, to her and the entire Water Moon sect, 7 days, it was too long. Ever since the Spirit Protectorate was promoted, the Water Moon sect, like the other sects, was attacked by cultivators of the Spirit Martial Realm. Not to mention the casualties, even the sect's spiritual weapon was almost taken away. In the end, a Grand Elder who was in seclusion forced his way out and used his spiritual weapon to repel the cultivator of the Spirit Martial Realm. As a price, that Supreme Elder also passed away in a seated posture. It could be said, Qi Yunshu only now understood how weak the Water Moon sect was in front of the real sections. Any cultivator of the Spirit Martial Realm came to their door. They almost destroyed the sect. Right now, only the Yuan sect could stabilize the situation in the Liang Mountain Spirit Protectorate. No other sect could do it, especially the more than 1,000 cultivators of the Spirit Martial Realm from the Yuan sect. In a short 2 to 3 days, they killed dozens of cultivators of the Spirit Martial Realm. It also showed their absolute strength. Therefore, for the Water Moon sect, only the Yuan sect could solve the current predicament. After a series of negotiations, Qi Yunshu came directly to the Liang Mountain Spirit Protectorate, hoping to pay a certain price to get the Yuan sect's help. Unfortunately, in the end, she did not even see Qin Shujian's face. Sect leader, how is it? After returning to the Water Moon sect, an elder immediately asked. It could be seen. The current Water Moon sect had really reached a point of no return. Qi Yunshu took a deep breath, shook her head, and said, Qin Shujian is not willing to meet. He said that all the forces will go after 7 days. During this period of time, it is not possible to rely on the Yuan sect. I've received news that the Emerald Cloud sect has encountered a strong enemy. The outer sect elder of the Yuan sect has gone to help them and has declared that he will ensure that the Emerald Cloud sect will not be destroyed for 20 years, said an elder who was over 50 years old. Protect the Blue Cloud sect from destruction for 20 years? That's right. I suspect that the Blue Cloud sect has already reached an agreement with the Yuan sect. What an old Taoist Qingxiu. He is indeed scheming and astute. A cold light flashed in Qi Yunshu's beautiful eyes. When she spoke, she seemed to be gnashing her teeth. In the original Blue River True Domain, the Water Moon sect, the Golden Sun sect, and the Blue Cloud sect had never been on good terms. Therefore, the Water Moon sect naturally would not let go of the opportunity to plant spies in the other two sections. If there was any news from the other two sects, the spies would also send it back to the Water Moon sect so that they could know the movements of the two sects in real time. Similarly, Qi Yunshu was also very clear. There would definitely be spies in the Water Moon sect from the other two sections. That elder added, besides the Water Moon sect, the other sects must not be having a good time in such a situation. The Wanhua sect has already been completely annihilated. Now, all the sects hope that the Yuan sect can take charge of the situation. Combined with the Yuan sect's current actions, Qin Shujian will not let go of this opportunity. Since he said that he would come in 7 days, we will wait for him for 7 days. At that time, everything will naturally become clear. The current situation had all been caused by Qin Shujian breaking the shackles of the True Domain and promoting the True Domain to the Spirit Domain. However, regardless of whether it was the Water Moon sect or the other sects, nobody dared to mention this matter. After all, the Yuan sect had originally been the overlord of the True Domain. Now that it had been promoted, it had become a Spirit Domain sect and was even more powerful than an ordinary Spirit Domain sect. If they angered the other party, there was almost no doubt. A moment later, a Spirit Martial Realm cultivator would descend on the sect and wipe it out with a wave of his hand. Qin Shujian was ruthless and merciless. This was something that everyone who knew about the other party's deeds tacitly agreed on. Upon hearing this, Qi Yunshu also fell silent. She could already foresee this. When the sects met in 7 days, Yuan sect would definitely demand an exorbitant price. However, the Water Moon sect had no other choice. The promotion of the True Domain to the Spirit Domain had already forced them into a dead end. Chapter 239. Now that Yuan Zong refuses to meet with any sects or forces, what should we do? Let's wait and see. In the Celestial sect, Zhang Shengming listened to the words of the people around him. His sharp eyes flashed with a cold light as he spoke. He had not expected this at all. Yuan Zong did not leave the Liang Mountain True Dominion. Instead, he had broken through the shackles and upgraded the True Dominion to the Spirit Dominion level. At the same time, he had not expected this. When the Essence sect advanced from the True Dominion to the Spirit Dominion, it would also advance to a level 5 force. What was even more unexpected was that the Origin sect would have over 1,000 domain enlightened spirit gods in the 3 realms of spiritual martial arts. Those who could reach the final realm were almost all the foundations of each sect. Those at the airborne realm were the ones who took charge of the situation on the surface. As for the domain spirit god realm, they were already the mainstay of every sect. Even a sect like the Celestial sect that had been passed down for over 1,000 years only possessed a mere 100 domain enlightened spirit gods. But that was how it was. The Celestial sect was already one of the top sects in the fallen dust spirit region. After all, although the spirit martial realm was the mainstream in the spirit realm, it did not mean that the streets were filled with spirit martial realm cultivators. To break into the spiritual martial force, this was a huge threshold for cultivators. Many cultivators wasted their entire lives, perhaps only reaching the peak of the true martial realm. Originally, Zhang Shengming had planned to attack this sect directly after Sky Origin sect entered the spirit domain and snatch away their sect treasure. However, but now, he had completely dispelled this idea. Over 1,000 domain enlightened spirit gods. Even if the celestial sect mobilized all of its forces, it would still be difficult for them to contend against it. However, when the quantity reached a terrifying level, it was no longer something that could be made up for with ordinary quality. Even if he was a god martial realm cultivator, when facing such a large number of domain enlightened spirit gods, they would probably have no choice but to retreat. Thinking of this, Zhang Shiming shook his head and said, "What do you think?" At this moment, in the celestial sect's main hall, the main seat was empty. Only Zhang Shiming spoke, and the others remained silent. After the other party finished speaking, just then, another elder opened his mouth and said, "The Liang Mountain Spirit Domain is currently filled with heaven and earth spirit qi, giving birth to many spirit mountains and great rivers, and even heaven and earth spirit treasures. If these things fell into the hands of those sects that only had true martial realm cultivators, it would be too much of a waste. If we can occupy a portion of the resources, I'm afraid it will be beneficial to the sect." Then what does Elder Feng mean? The Sky Origin sect is powerful, and it would be difficult for us to fight against them alone. However, there are many sects eyeing the spirit domain of Mount Liang right now. If we join forces with the other sects, even Qin Shujian would not dare to fight against so many sects. After that, the hall fell into a brief silence. Zhang Shiming stroked his beard and muttered, "Elder Feng's suggestion is not bad. It's a pity that the other sects may not be of the same mind as Celestial Sect. If they join forces and push the Celestial Sect into the teeth of the storm, I'm afraid it will be a troublesome matter." "Great Elder, wealth comes from danger." Elder Feng's face was solemn as he said in a low voice, "The Celestial Sect has not been able to develop to this stage by blindly planning before acting. If we don't take advantage of this opportunity and wait for Qin Shujian to stabilize the situation in Mount Liang's spirit realm, it will be even harder for us to interfere." Hearing this, Zhang Xingming's expression changed slightly. It was just as the other party had said. He didn't want to put the Celestial Sect in a dangerous situation. However, Elder Feng's words, it also caused some waves to rise in his heart. On the other side, in Mount Liang's spirit realm, after Yuan Zhong's 1,000 over spirit god realm cultivators attacked and massacred a group of cultivators who had caused chaos in Mount Liang's spirit realm, they finally intimidated the others. Because, during this period of time, they had died in Yuan Zhong's hands. Other than the spirit god realm cultivators, there were even 3 airborne realm cultivators among them. No one had expected this. In addition to a long saber Dao artifact in Yuan Zhong's hands, he also had a longbow Dao artifact, a one-seal Dao artifact Bow of the Cosmos, coupled with a half-step Dao artifact cloud-piercing arrow. The combination of the two, it was enough to make any spirit martial realm cultivator feel fearful. Those were the 3 airborne realm cultivators. They had directly fallen in the hands of the Cosmos Bow. When those 3 airborne realm cultivators were shot to death, the other experts from the outside world fell into silence. Even some experts from large sects. They didn't dare to act rashly. After all, an airborne realm cultivator was already an expert at the level of a sect master in the spirit realm. As for cultivators at a higher realm, most of the time, they were cultivating in seclusion in an attempt to reach the threshold of the divine martial realm. Even if it was a top sect like the Celestial Sect, an airborne realm cultivator, they also had a pivotal position. Now that the blood of 3 airborne realm cultivators had spilled in Mount Liang's spirit realm, it caused the other spirit god realm and even airborne realm cultivators to tremble in fear. Mount Liang City. After the city was officially built, Qin Shujian began to let some of Yuan Zhong's people live in it. After all, it was a city. Its main purpose was to steadily collect taxes to support a sect. However, the city was newly built. He didn't wantonly recruit people from the Chamber of Commerce or other sects to live in this city. So, only Yuan Zhong's people were in Mount Liang City. But even so, there was still some prosperity in the city. In the end, Yuan Zhong was a large sect with more than 10,000 people. This is Mount Liang City. Standing not far away from the city, Yang Zhongning looked at the tall city. There was no need to describe the shock in his heart. Although the Gold Sun sect status was not low in the past, but it was far from the point of building a city. Standing in front of the city, he even felt that this city was also a terrifying powerhouse, giving people a great sense of oppression. This kind of oppression, Yang Zhongning had only felt it on the sect-guarding spirit artifact of the Gold Sun sect. Could it be? This city is a huge spirit artifact? For no reason, such a thought arose in Yang Zhongning's mind, but he quickly shook his head and threw it away. How was that possible? If a city was to be forged into a spirit artifact, what kind of shocking method would that be? At least in Yang Zhongning's knowledge, he had never heard of it. When he stepped within 30 meters of Mount Liang City, Yang Zhongning felt as if his body had passed through some kind of membrane, and the surrounding spirit chi of heaven and earth instantly became dense. At the city gate, there were no guards. There were only people coming in and out from time to time, as if it was extraordinarily lively. Is that Elder Yang Zhongning of the Gold Sun sect? I'm Yang Zhongning. Greetings, Elder Su. Looking at the person walking towards him, Yang Zhongning had a solemn expression as he cupped his hands and said, if it was in the past when he faced Su Yuanming, perhaps there was no need to be so polite. No matter what, he was the Grand Elder of the Gold Sun sect, and his authority was equivalent to that of the Deputy Sect Master. However, Yang Zhongning was very clear in his heart. Although the person in front of him was only one of the elders of Yuanzhong, he was a great cultivator in the spirit martial realm. As for the spirit god realm, or the airborne realm, that was unknown. However, even if he was only a spirit god realm cultivator, he was not someone a true martial realm cultivator could contend against. Su Yuanming smiled and cupped his hands. The sect master knew that Elder Yang was coming and specially ordered me to come and welcome you. Please follow me in. Thank you. Please. Su Yuanming took the lead and walked into Mount Liang City. Yang Zhongning followed beside him. After walking into Mount Liang City, looking at the wide streets on both sides, some of the open shops, and the people hawking on the streets, Yang Zhongning could not help but praise. Your sect's city already has signs of prosperity. It will definitely be more prosperous in the future. Haha, Elder Yang. You praise me too much. Su Yuanming laughed. He would not directly tell Yang Zhongning. The people he saw, actually, they were all from Yuanzhong. The people who had set up stalls along the streets were all from Yuanzhong. After all, these people were not wearing Yuanzhong's disciple uniform. If one did not know them well, it would be very difficult to see any clues. The more they walked in, Yang Zhongning was more shocked by Mount Liang City. Apart from the population, this city was not much inferior to the city built by the imperial court. However, in terms of the spirit chi of heaven and earth, it was even superior. Brother, how much are you selling this for? A beast core at the 5th level of the true martial realm? F***CK, that's too expensive. It's not expensive at all. Even if you exchange this for contribution points, it will cost 200. If you take it to the smithing hall, you can exchange it for a tier 4 armor. It's just that I'm too lazy to pay more. The player who set up the stall rolled his eyes and said, a beast core at the 5th level of the true martial realm is definitely not a loss. If you want to buy it, hurry up. Otherwise, if someone else buys it, it will be too late to regret it. Deal. The player hesitated for a while, then finally threw down a beast core. Then, he took a huge scale armor from the ground and left with satisfaction. Similar to this situation, it could be found everywhere in the city. As Mount Liang City expanded, the village where the outer court disciples lived and set up stalls to trade had been destroyed. The players wanted to trade. They could only move their stalls to Mount Liang City. However, there were some benefits to this. Disciples of Yuanzhong did not have to pay any taxes when they set up stalls. Fighting is forbidden in Mount Liang City. If someone fights without permission, the guards will appear. If it's light, they will be expelled from the city. If it's heavy, they will be killed on the spot. Walking in the city, Su Yuanming gave Yang Zhongning a brief introduction of the city's situation. On the side, Yang Zhongning listened silently. My Yuanzhong now has 2 halls of alchemy and smithing. We will also set up shops here. If the Golden Sun sect needs anything in the future, you can come here to buy. I didn't expect your sect to have experts in alchemy and smithing. This really surprises me. Yang Zhongning's expression changed slightly. Looking at the empty shops around him, he smiled and said, I wonder if your sect will allow other forces to enter this city? If the Golden Sun sect is interested, I believe the sect master will welcome you with open arms. Yang Zhongning chuckled, but did not continue to talk about this issue. However, looking at his expression, it was obvious that he took Su Yuanming's words to heart. With the current power of the Yuan Zone, if nothing unexpected happened, Mount Liang City would definitely become a big city in the Mount Liang spiritual region. To be able to occupy a place here, for the Golden Sun sect, it might not be a bad thing. Chapter 240. In the city, there was also a building similar to the City Lord Mansion. When Yang Zhongning followed Su Yuanming into the building, he discovered that there seemed to be too many experts in the City Lord Mansion. When he entered the banquet hall, he also saw that the people from the other sects were already seated there. Elder Yang. When they saw Yang Zhongning, many people cupped their hands and greeted him from afar. Yang Zhongning also cupped his hands in response. As for Su Yuanming, they had already seen him before. When Yang Zhongning sat down at the seat exclusive to the Gold Sun sect, he silently sized up the other people in the banquet hall. The promotion of the Liang Mountain Spirit Protectorate, it had affected there were a total of 6 true dominions. Everyone present, they were all sects in the 6 true dominions. Apart from that, there were no other people from other powers present. When he saw this, Yang Zhongning had a rough idea. Apart from a few large sects, even if there were true martial realm cultivators in the other powers, they could only be considered mediocre. Not long after, 2 more people arrived one after another. At this point, all the sects and powers of the 6 true dominions were considered to have arrived. The sect master has arrived. A voice was heard from outside. Everyone was stunned. They immediately looked at the entrance of the banquet hall and saw Qin Shujian, who was dressed in a green robe, striding in. Instantly, everyone stood up, bowed their heads and cupped their fists. Greetings, Sect Master Qin. Everyone, please take a seat. After sitting down at the main seat, Qin Shujian gestured with his hands in the air and said with a faint smile, Thank you, Sect Master Qin. Everyone obeyed and sat down. Qin Shujian clapped his hands twice. Immediately, people came forward to serve tea to the cultivators of the various sections. In an instant, the banquet hall was filled with a fragrance, and the spirit qi seemed to have become denser. It was definitely not an ordinary spirit tea that could achieve this level of effect. However, everyone's attention was not on this, so no one paid too much attention to this. After taking a sip of the spirit tea, Qin Shujian put down the teacup in his hand. The soft collision between the bottom of the teacup and the table was extremely eye-catching in the banquet hall, causing the hearts of the others to involuntarily tremble. Soon after, their gazes fell on the other party. Now that the spirit realm has been promoted, the world's spirit energy is flowing backwards and nourishing, causing many experts from other spirit realms to covet our Liang Mountain spirit realm. There is no lack of cultivators from other spirit realms. These days, my Yuan sect spirit martial realm cultivators have been roaming all over the spirit domain. Their goal is to maintain the stability of Mount Liang's spirit domain and to restore peace and order. Qin Shujian said slowly. Regarding this, the others remained silent. Everyone was well aware of who the culprit was and why things had escalated to such a state. But knowing these things was one thing, but he could not say it out loud. Not long after Qin Shujian finished speaking, the Blue Cloud Sect's Sect Master Qing Su immediately said in a clear voice, Yuan Sect has done a lot for Mount Liang's spirit domain and saved the other sects from danger. This Taoist admires you. Sect Master Qing Su is too kind. Yuan Sect is a part of Mount Liang's spirit domain. How could we sit and watch the spirit domain fall into chaos? Qin Shujian replied with a smile. Yang Zhongning and the others looked at the 2 people praising each other and did not know what to say for a moment. The people present now, who didn't know that the Blue Cloud sect and Yuan sect had something fishy going on. Zhang Ergu's words of protecting the Blue Cloud sect for 20 years had spread to the ears of almost all the sections. They believed. Qingsu definitely knew that this matter had spread. But even so, the other party still shamelessly praised them, making them understand the bottom line of this old Taoist even more. However, now that Qingsu had spoken, if the others remained silent, they would be giving Yuan sect a hard time. Therefore, after Qingsu spoke, Yang Zhongning and the others also cupped their fists and said, Sect Master Qingsu is right. Sect Master Qin's sacrifice for Mount Liang's spirit domain is obvious to all. We also admire him. Since everyone is able to understand my Yuan Zong's efforts, then I will not beat around the bush. The others' faces stiffened again. Qin Shujian ignored them and said in a deep voice, Now that the spirit domain has been upgraded, true martial realm cultivators are no longer the top experts. Spirit martial realm cultivators are the mainstream. Cultivators from other regions covet the sect guarding spirit artifacts of Mount Liang's spirit domain, spirit mountains and rivers with rich spirit energy, and other things. The sects that you belong to used to be the top sects of the true domain. However, in the spirit domain, sects without spirit martial realm cultivators can only be considered inferior. Sects and clans without airborne realm cultivators would have a hard time keeping their heritage intact. These days, the sects should have encountered a lot of trouble. The Spirit Resonance True Domain's Wanhua sect was destroyed and its sect-guarding spirit artifact was stolen. Although the cultivator who attacked was killed by my sect, the situation had reached a point of no return. I dare to say this. If it weren't for the fact that our Yuan sect's cultivators were exhausted from running around and killing these cultivators one by one, how many sects would still be able to sit here today? As he spoke, the smile on Qin Shujian's face disappeared. As for Yang Zhongning and the others, their expressions were also changing unpredictably. Since the spirit domain had been upgraded, all the sects that had sect-guarding spirit artifacts had been attacked by spirit martial realm cultivators. Some sects had even paid a heavy price. But no matter how heavy the price was, true martial realm cultivators couldn't compete with spirit martial realm cultivators. If Yuan sect hadn't intimidated the experts these days, most likely, all the sects present would have been destroyed. After all, now, among the sects in Mount Liang's spirit domain, only the Heaven Saber sect had spirit martial realm cultivators besides Yuan sect. But, looking at Gue Haichuan's unpleasant expression, they secretly shook their heads. During this time, the Heaven Saber sect had welcomed 3 waves of spirit martial realm cultivators. Although they were defeated by the other party with the help of their sect guarding spirit artifacts, they still paid a heavy price. Qingsu at the side also spoke at the right time. If your sect hadn't acted at the right time, my Blue Cloud sect would have followed in the footsteps of the Wanhua sect. Today, I wouldn't have been able to sit here. Although these words were meant to echo, it was also the truth. Qi Yunshu, who had been silent for a long time, suddenly said, Right now, in Mount Liang's spirit domain, only the Origin sect can contend against the foreign cultivators. The Watermoon sect hopes that Sect Master Qin can lend a helping hand. If you can preserve the sect's inheritance, we are willing to pay any price. Following Qi Yunshu's words, Sect Master Qi's words are also Nine Rivers sect's intentions. Li Fei also cupped his fists and said, Everyone was well aware of the reason why Qin Shujian had gathered all the sects here. Instead of waiting for the other party to speak, it was better to take the initiative to avoid awkwardness. Moreover, if they lost Yuan sect's support, they didn't have the confidence to protect their sect's inheritance in front of the foreign cultivators. In the end, they were still too weak. Qin Shujian's solemn expression also became gentle. He looked at the people from the other sects and said calmly, I wonder what the other sects think. As long as we can protect our sect's inheritance, we will follow Sect Master Qin. Good, Qin Shujian immediately said. In that case, I won't beat around the bush. For 20 years, each sect will pay 2 million taels of silver annually. My Yuan sect will protect your sect from destruction. After 20 years, if the sects think that they can protect themselves, then I won't force it. In addition, My Yuan sect will only guarantee that you won't be attacked by foreign cultivators. However, if you take the initiative to start a fight, then it doesn't fall under the scope of my promise. 2,000,000 taels of silver. Hearing this, apart from Qing Su, who still maintained a calm expression, everyone else's expression changed greatly. Sect Master Qin, isn't 2,000,000 taels too high? Sect Master Shan Yu's expression changed slightly as she said hesitantly. Qin Shujian glanced at her and said in a deep voice, "Everyone here used to be the top sects in their respective regions. The amount of assets under your name is immeasurable. I'm afraid that your annual profit is more than 3 or 4 million taels. I'm only taking 2,000,000 taels because you and I are from the same sect in the Liang Mountain Spirit Domain. If it's a foreign sect, even if it's many times more, my Yuan sect won't take a fancy to it." This, Sect Master Shen, if you can't make a decision immediately, you can return to your sect and think about it. After you've thought it through, it won't be too late for us to talk about it. After saying this, Shin Yu's face turned pale as she hurriedly said, "Sect Master Qin, don't misunderstand. My sect definitely doesn't mean to refuse. Go back and think about it." She wasn't naive enough to think that she would have a chance to think about it after going back. With Qin Shujian's ruthlessness, she was afraid that after walking out of this banquet hall, the fate of her sect was destined. 2,000,000 taels of silver was a lot. However, compared to the survival of the sect, it wasn't much. The Blue Cloud sect is willing to offer 2,000,000 taels of silver every year in exchange for your sect's protection. Before Shin Yu could say anything, Qing Su had already stood up and cupped his hands. Subsequently, the other sects didn't say anything and all cupped their hands in agreement. There was nothing they could do even if they didn't agree. It was obvious that Yuan's sect had them under control. When they were still in the True Dominion, all the sects present combined might not be able to contend against Yuan's sect. Now that the Spirit Domain had advanced, Yuan's sect had 1,500 Spirit Martial Realm cultivators and could dominate a region. The sects present had no chance of contending against them. Therefore, either they agreed, or they perished. As for whether they perished in the hands of Yuan's sect or the foreign cultivators, this was perhaps the only variable. If they wanted to get closer to the other sects of the Spirit Domain, that was something they didn't even need to think about, unless the entire sect moved. Or else, if any other sect showed signs of doing so, Yuan's sect would crush their sect in the next moment. The other sects were sensible. This also made Qin Shujian have a faint smile on his face. Excluding the original Liang Mountain True Dominion, there were a total of 12 sects in the other 5 True Dominion. This way, Yuan's sect would receive a total of 24,000,000 taels of silver every year. Such a profit. Even if Yuan's sect had a few times more people now, it would be enough to support the sect's operations. Indeed, collecting protection fees was the right way to maintain a sect. At this thought, Qin Shujian raised his teacup and said loudly, "Let me toast everyone today. Please." You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.